How did this whole discovery start with you, with first learning about your daughter's abilities, and I think you discovered that you also had these abilities when you were a child. So can you kind of explain like just the backstory to all of this? Because this is wild stuff.
Backstory. I'll see how much I can truncate it.
No, take your time.
So yeah, when I was a kid, I did have telepathic abilities, but I never called it that. I just thought it was something everybody had. And so I was able to know what people were thinking and know what they were going to say and know how they were going to react. I remember knowing that. And at first, I wondered why adults, to me, I thought it was just adults that weren't reading each other's minds. And I remember thinking, coming to the conclusion, maybe when you become an adult, you can't do it anymore. So I was probably like 4. I hadn't gone to school yet. And I remember thinking, okay, so I'm probably going to lose it when I become an adult. So I'll get okay with that. But when I went to school, I noticed the other kids weren't doing it either. Like I remember wondering, like, why aren't they just knowing what each other's thinking? It's so obvious. And so for a while, I just remember the teachers always asking me, how do you know? Like, for example, we were playing this one game one time, and one person's supposed to go in the hallway, and everybody's sitting on the floor in a circle, and someone's supposed to take an object and sit on it. You're supposed to find the person that was sitting on the object. And I remember when it was my turn, I went out there. I'm like, it's so obvious who it is. The person, right? It's the person's thinking about it. They're scared. They're afraid of me to pick on them. Every single time I knew it. And I just remember picking it, and the teacher's like, how do you know? And then I ended up they just ended up letting me like sit it out after a few turns. Because the way the game worked was if you got it wrong, someone else got to try. But for me, I kept getting it right every single time. I just remember thinking, it's telling the teacher it's because they're thinking about it. But I didn't think anything of it. But those were my last memories of having the ability. And it's only because, you know how memories are. Your biggest memories are coming with emotions, and my emotions were like confusion, like, why aren't they doing this, And so those are my last memories of it, probably around first grade or so. And since then, it has been hit or miss. In fact, my idea of telepathy, I feel like telepathy, like what my daughter can do. So my daughter's Lidu, and what she can do is like what you think. I didn't even think that was a real thing. like I've always been into the spiritual realms since I was a little kid. I was always meditating and always going to holy places since I was a little kid, going by myself sometimes. And but what my daughter can do with her telepathy, I feel like I never really believed in telepathy because what she can do blew me away. It's like stuff from TV, like stuff that you would never think is real. I guess what I thought telepathy was, before my daughter started to open up about hers, was you kind of sensing what they're feeling and then projecting your ideas onto it. That's what I kind of thought telepathy was. It's confusing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, when I was a kid, I definitely had something more like my daughter has.
And this was in Utah when you grew up? Did you grow up there?
No, I grew up in South Jersey.
Oh, South Jersey. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I went to Utah when I was 18 to go to college. So. Okay.
And so, like, what was it like during the time growing up and this ability starting to atrophy? Were you paying attention to it? Did you notice, was it all of a sudden, like one day it didn't work, or what was that like?
I never noticed it turning off. I just kind of went on my life and didn't notice it until my daughter came out. And I'm like, wait a minute, I remember being able to do that. Wow. So it's just something like I just went on with my life. It's because I was so young. It's just kind of life moved on. I also had the ability to hear, I don't know who I was hearing some kind of spiritual helpers talking, and I could hear them audibly. And that was another thing that kind of just turned off without me noticing. I have a couple of memories of me talking to them, and I remember linking them to family, thinking they have my best interest in heart, listen to them. I remember talking to them out loud, and I remember one of my aunts walking in and looking worried and saying, "Who are you talking to?" And so again, because an emotion is attached to that memory, I remember thinking I must be doing something weird. So I just told her nobody, and I don't have any other memories after that. But I do remember doing that as a kid too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you had a very a pretty normal childhood. There was nothing abnormal about your childhood or anything like this? You weren't diagnosed with any of these conditions?
No diagnosis or anything. But yeah, as far as me, I've always been into meditation. I've always gone to holy places. I've always felt like I had a connection with the other side and God. And
so you grew up religious?
I didn't really go to church. Well, my family didn't really go to church, but I did.
Interesting.
It's because I recognized the energy of the holy building. So I really liked the energy. I remember looking at the priests and everyone talking and thinking, it's really sweet what they're trying to do, and thinking there's a huge difference between these men and God, but it's really sweet what they're trying to do. And I love the energy of this place. And so I remember thinking that as a kid as well, and going there by myself a lot. And I'm like 4 years old going to these places just because I like the energy. And I stopped in my 20s, and like in my teenage years, I still went, but I stopped in my 20s for a while. And then when my daughter came around, talking about her telepathy and stuff, we started going back because she likes the holy atmosphere as well. But going back to your question, how it started for me. So when I was a little kid, there's so many things. But when I was a little kid, I remember getting visions of the type of work I was going to do. And I always saw myself healing, laying on of hands, but I was wearing Asian garments. And I remember thinking that was confusing. And it wasn't until in my 20s I found like the kind of chi practice I was going to do. And so I started doing it. And it was there I started learning how to sense my world blindfolded, but it's just sensing. There was no visual component to it at all. It was just being able to tell things by touch and by sound, by smell. And I remember hearing about Indonesia and like 15 years ago, kids doing this blindfolded vision. I just remember hearing about it and seeing it and thinking, I want to do that. But I remember hearing that they don't teach adults in a lot of these schools. They didn't teach adults. They only taught children. And some people even would say that adults couldn't learn it. And I remember thinking, well, that's ridiculous. We have the same brain. We might access different brain waves at different times. Like they are more in the alpha and we're more in a different, but we should be able to do it too. So there was no doubt in my mind that I could do it too. And, but I never actually went into it until I had this weird spiritual experience. So in this reality that my daughter and I are in, there's so many abilities that are not talked about that are out there that we all have. Like this is not just special to me and her. Like we all have these things. And so there's this one weird thing that would happen with me where I would sit up one day and I'd be in a different time or in the future or a different timeline, but I would be there. Like I would be there. It's not just my thoughts. So I remember sitting up one day and one of my daughters was in my bed in this timeline I sat up in, and I had a blindfold on, and I was seeing the entire room with the blindfold. And I remember thinking, well, I'm in another timeline, or I'm in the future right now because I didn't lay down with a blindfold and my daughter wasn't in the bed. So I know I'm in the future or a different timeline. I don't know what to call it, but that's, and so I remember thinking this must be important. Then this must be an important thing for me to pay attention to. Then later that day, I decided to grab my blindfold, do a lying down meditation, and my daughter climbs into bed, and I'm thinking, I wonder if it's going to happen. So I do my meditation, and I sit up, and exactly the same thing that had happened earlier that day happened. And so I saw the entire room, and I remember thinking, okay, I need to learn how to do this all the time. And after that, for 6 months, I was walking around with, I have a bunch of blindfolds here. I was walking around.
For people that are listening and not watching, Dalia has brought like 4 or 5 blindfolds with her.
Yeah, so it was this one.
Okay.
So I walked around for like 6 months with this, and I called it the dark walk, and I was trying to figure it out. And so I'm walking, and all I see is pitch black for like 6 months. But I was able to get around. It was the coolest training for myself, and I would do it every day for about like 20 to 30 minutes of just walking with a blindfold on.
Outside?
Inside.
Okay.
And I remember I couldn't see even a speck of light. I couldn't see colors. I couldn't read at all, but I could easily see all the outlines in the room, and I could see my hand, like the outline of my hand in front of my face. So I was able to get around the house. I was able to open up the doors because I would see where everything was. And I thought it was so cool. It was just the outlines. It was kind of like looking at an ultrasound or something. It was like sound. And if I tapped on something, I would see it even more. It would just appear even more. And so it was the coolest thing. I remember thinking how cool it was that I could go into a bathroom or something without turning on the lights because it didn't make any difference. And I remember doing that for a while and then finally thinking, well, how do I actually read like the kids do? How do I actually like see colors and stuff like those kids are doing? And so I remember that's when I started looking into doing that in the US. And so there was a couple of schools. There's one in Utah called VibraVision, and I looked into them, and just 20 minutes away. And then I looked at these people online, like Rob Freeman and Wendy Gallant, and I looked at them. And with them, they actually just focus on the blindfold, whereas VibraVision was focusing on teaching like a lot of stuff. They taught the energy work, and they taught a lot of stuff. And since I already had an energy background, I thought, I just want to do the blindfold. So I decided to fly out, and I met with these people who are doing their second seminar ever. Actually, before that, I did a phone call or a Zoom call with Rob, and we were on the call. And for the first time ever, I had my blindfold on. And for the first time ever, I started seeing things with my mind's eye. He was holding up shapes, and I got nearly 100%. And I said, this is insane. I didn't even think that I could do something like this. I never even tried. And it was so amazing. And then he was like, you definitely got to come into the seminar. And so when I went to the actual seminar, on the second day, I started to see colors for the first time, and they were very shocked because they hadn't seen anyone open that fast before. And so I started to see the colors, and it was so amazing. And then the next day, I started to see more. I started to see shapes, and then I started to be able to read, and it just blew my whole paradigm. I thought, like, whoa! I found the glitch in the matrix. I figured it all out. This is insane, and I felt like I could do anything after that. And before that, though, my daughter had already come way out with her telepathy. I can get into that in a minute, but did you have any insights?
So your daughter, you learned about your daughter's telepathy before you started doing this stuff?
Yes. Probably like a few months before. Wasn't that long, because my daughter, she has severe autism, and she couldn't communicate until we found this method of communication spelling. And we didn't find that until she was 11. And it took her 2 years to be able to finally talk to me, because she was able to talk to her provider after about 6 months. But with me, it took her about 2 years to be able to spell consistently. And it wasn't until then that she came out and told me all that stuff. And before then, she was a savant. In other ways, I recognized it. She was an artist savant. She won a bunch of national art competitions and things. She was kind of always in the front of an audience. She won pageants, and so she was pretty amazing already, but she wasn't able to communicate. Once she started communicating, I remember one day asking her, I said, Lidu, you have so many talents. It's insane how many talents. Like, another one of her talents is she can write backwards and sing backwards, and a lot of her art she does backwards. Like, if you play her a song, she could sing it backwards. And like, if you reverse the song, it'll be perfect. Or if you give her an art piece or you give her your name, she'll write it down backwards. You could put it in a mirror. It comes out perfect. So she has these abilities. And I said, we all have abilities. We all have things we're really, really good at. Do you have any other abilities that you're good at that we don't know about? And then she says, well, yeah, I can discern spirits. That was the first thing she said. I'm like,
discern? How old was she?
She, at the time, she was 13. And she's 15 now. She just turned 15.
How old was she when you started to notice something was up? Like something that she might not be able to talk, or that something was different?
I think she was 5 when I really realized she had autism.
Interesting.
Before then, okay, so actually, let's talk about age 2. So age 2, she was actually showing incredible savant skills. So I remember walking in the room one day, and she was actually typing on my computer, and she wasn't just typing ABC. She was typing humongous words like outrageous and ostentatious and stuff like that. And I remember thinking, so I have a 2-year-old now and a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. They can't type anything. So my daughter's 2, and she's typing these really big words. And I think she was trying to show me, hey, I can spell and stuff, but I didn't even think to click. All I thought was, I remember telling my husband, I said, I think we have like a genius child. And he actually saw it the other way. He's like, oh, I actually think she's kind of delayed because she's not speaking yet. And I'm like, I don't know.
At 2?
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know. I think she's a genius because I don't know any kids that could do this. And so around age 5, she was still not really speaking. And I went to, I got her diagnosed, and they said, yeah, like it's some kind of autism. And
were there any words? Could she string them together like 2 or 3 words?
yeah, she had, she can do echolalia. So if I said something, she could repeat it. And so that made it so for a few years I wasn't sure she was a non-speaker. I just assumed she was because she could repeat words and stuff like that. But that's actually pretty typical for a lot of non-speakers or limited speakers.
Do we know what causes that?
What causes that?
Do we know like what the causes are? Like, is it hereditary? Are there any environmental factors that contribute to it? Or
there isn't a clear thing that causes it. But with her specifically, she was born 3 months early.
okay.
So, and they actually told me on the day that I was about to have her, they said there's a high chance of her getting autism. And so that there is
because of the early birth.
Yeah, so there's a correlation with early birth and autism, but I can't say for sure, especially since Lidu told me herself, like she remembers her pre-birth stuff, she remembers previous lives, and so she told me she actually chose her disability because it's really crazy. Like I asked her one day, I said, how did I get blessed to have a child like you? And she said, well, you said that you wanted a child. She's talking about before I was born. She said, you said you wanted a child that was either going to be a world teacher or disabled. And I decided to do both. And I was like, wow. And then I said, is there anything else about that you want to tell me? And then she said, yeah, I'm the one that chose this disability. And she said that because I was going through a lot of trauma about her having autism. And I kept thinking somehow maybe I was too stressed during that pregnancy. Maybe I needed to maybe there's something I could have done so she wasn't born early. And she said, no, none of that mattered. It was supposed to happen.
Boy, my late 30s is hitting harder than I expected. I still love staying active, like golfing, surfing, weightlifting, but my recovery takes way longer and my joints are way stiffer. That's where Bubs Naturals collagen peptides come in clutch. Most people don't know that by your mid-20s, your body's collagen production drops fast. That's the stuff that keeps your joints strong, your skin smooth, and your hair and nails healthy. Bubs helps restore those levels closer to what you had in your 20s, and man, I can feel it. My knees don't ache after rolling, my skin looks better, and I bounce back faster thanks to Bubs. And the best part is it dissolves right into my morning coffee. I love how clean it is. No junk, no sugar, no fillers. It's third-party tested, NSF certified for sport, and sustainably sourced from grass-fed cattle. Over 100,000 happy customers can't be wrong. Bubs Naturals was even voted 2024's best collagen by Health.com. Aging happens, but thanks to Bubs, you don't have to feel it. Live better longer. For a limited time only, our listeners are getting 20% off at bubsnaturals.com using the code DannyJones at checkout. Just head on over to bubsnaturals.com and use the code DANNYJONES and you're all set. They're going to ask where you heard about them, and please help support the show by telling them we sent you. It's linked down below. Now back to the show. Yeah, I never really knew a lot about autism until I listened to the Telepathy Tapes, and the way Kai Dickens describes it by talking to all these mothers is that it's basically like you are, there's nothing wrong with your mind. You have a fully functioning mind. It's just like you're trapped inside your head and there's a disconnect between the mind and the body. Does that sound about right?
I would say that, yeah. Okay. So the way I've described it before, it's like your arms and your legs are tied together and your mouth is kind of shut, and you're sitting in a room and people are talking, you're still absorbing everything. Mm-hmm. You still understand everything, but you can't show them with your body language. You can't show them with your speaking.
Right.
Not even your emotions can you show them because it's not accurate. And so when my daughter spells, sometimes her body language will make it look like she's not paying attention. Sometimes it'll make it look like she's bored. Sometimes it'll make it look like she's angry or she's excited, and her emotions on the inside will be totally different. And so so a big part of the spelling community is we say presume competence. Like these kids, even though they might look like they're not paying attention or they might look like they're not understanding, most likely they are. I would say the majority of the time they are.
Mm. And at what point did you start talking or reaching out to other families that have children that are similar?
Yeah, so my daughter, Well, I have a friend in Utah, where she's in Colorado now, and so her son also has autism, and he was 12 when I met her, and my daughter was 3, and when he was about 19, she got him into spelling. And she kept telling me, Dalia, you need to get your daughter into this. And I'm like, I think Lidu's a little different because he didn't say hardly any words at all. And Lidu could say some words. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting there thinking that there was like a difference and that she wouldn't really benefit. So she's told me for a few months. And I kept on thinking, yeah, I'll go check it out. And finally I went and saw it and I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, I knew this kid since he was 12, never heard him say a word. And at 19 or 20, actually, he was spelling the most intricate things. It was so beautiful. And he was funny, had this huge personality. He sounded like someone much older than 19. And I remember being shocked. And so I just remember watching him, I'm like, I can't believe my eyes. Like, I've known this kid so long, I cannot believe what he's saying. And I'm watching him spell. And so he gets up and if there's a break time, he gets up and he's like kind of dancing in the corner or something. Mm-hmm. I'm embarrassed because as on the car ride, he was behind us and we were talking and I wasn't really including in a conversation because I didn't think he could even understand. That's how naive I was at the time. Right. My daughter was 11 and I still didn't know how much she could understand. And so, he even brought up points from the car ride during the talk. And I was like, I can't believe like I didn't include him in the conversation. I feel so dumb now. Wow. And so anyway, I'm asking the facilitator, I said, is this going to benefit my daughter? Because she can say some words. And she goes, yeah, it's basically, if she's saying more impulsive things and it's echolalia, this will benefit her. It's the same thing. And
what's that word you used?
Echolalia.
Echolalia.
Yeah, and so that's the ability to say phrases or to repeat what you say.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they might say like a similar song over and over, or they're just kind of repeating a phrase. So yeah, he sits down and they're about to start their lesson again. He goes, before I start, can I say something? And he goes, us autistics are very intelligent and we love to learn. He goes, especially me. He goes, I really think you should invite your daughter because, and he's spelling this out and I'm like, eyes open. He says, because there's nothing worse than being in a silent prison. And, oh man, it gets me so worked up when I remember that. But I got my daughter in there the next week. And sorry,
no, you're good.
I got her in there in the next week and she's saying her first words and it's so emotional. I still can't even think of the memories. But yeah, she's saying her first words and she's saying the most intelligent words just to show me how intelligent she was. She couldn't say like a bunch of expressive stuff yet, but she was able to say like 2 or 3 words at a time because it takes a lot of motor skills to be able to spell. And I couldn't believe the stuff she was able to get out. Wow. I was like, oh my gosh. And I had my daughter in ABA for a year or so because I wanted her to communicate and I wasn't really getting anywhere with that. But with this one lesson, it was RPM, rapid prompting method, and this one session, and she was already communicating more than ever. 6 weeks later, my daughter's having full-blown conversations with me. But I had to go to the provider to have those conversations, and it was the best hour drive of my life. Like every 2 weeks I would take her and I would talk to her and it was like the most amazing thing. And when I would bring her home, it's like she's like this younger kid. In fact, I felt so embarrassed because I'm like, this whole time I was talking to her like she's 5 and she's 11 and I'm talking to her like she's 5 years old. I didn't know. And I'm like, I can't believe how intelligent you are. And I just didn't know. And I felt so dumb. And,
God, that had to be so emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, after 2 years of her doing that therapy, I was able to talk with her. And that's when she opened up about her telepathy and the world that I was about to go into with her.
So you figured out that she's been reading your mind this whole time.
Oh yeah. So up until then, I thought she must have had superhuman hearing because that made more sense to me than telepathy. It didn't even cross my mind to think telepathy. Sometimes she would be outside and she would just come in knowing exactly what we were talking about. And I'm like, she must have the best hearing in the world. I remember thinking there was one time she told me she had spelled it out. This is before I knew about the telepathy. She spelled out she wanted a specific toy and it was kind of impossible to find that toy. And so she's outside and I decided to order it. It was a Pinocchio, like a really old school Pinocchio. And so I order it. And as soon as I was about to push the button, I hear the outside door. I'm like, oh no. She comes in. Actually, I didn't know about the telepathy at this point. I just hear the door. I'm like, oh, she knows I placed that order. And she comes upstairs and she's like, "Mommy," and she's smiling. She's like, "What did you just do?" And because her speech got better with this spelling too. And I was like, and I was like, "Don't worry about it." And then she's all like, "What did you do?" And she's trying to look at the phone, smiling. I'm like, "Go away! You're always eavesdropping." And so that's what she calls it, eavesdropping. So, but yeah, before I knew about the telepathy, though, I remember once I was in a car and I was driving, and I remember wanting to put on a song for her that she really loved. And we hadn't heard the song in like a couple of years. And I remember thinking, I'm going to surprise her with this song that she loves. And I was looking for it. And I just remember for like a half hour, she's like, "Mommy, give me the phone." She just kept saying that. And I said, no, sweetie, hold on. I'm trying to find a song. And so finally I gave up and I gave her the phone, and immediately she puts the song on. She knew the title and everything I was thinking of. But I didn't know she had telepathy yet. And I'm like, how did she know that? Lidu, how did you know? And so for a while, yeah, we just thought she had superhuman hearing or something.
So it must have been a world-shattering revelation for you to actually understand that your daughter has telepathic abilities. And so, like, when you define telepathy, in your mind, how specifically does it work?
Oh, man, it's so hard to say. She has access.
Like, what would be your best guess to what's actually happening?
What's actually happening is, it's hard to say. I would say she has access to not only my mind, present thoughts. She has access to thoughts I'm not even thinking about. But not just that, she has the ability to go into other places like the Hill. I don't know if you know what the Hill is. She has the ability to go to other places, but not just the Hill. If I'm somewhere, she's probably here right now. Like she has the ability to go to places and teleport herself to those places and tell me, oh man, I have so many stories. So, for example, I did this one seminar in Orlando in January, and this is the first time I was apart from her. And I remember having a conversation with my friend, and I remember him saying that, how does the telepathy stuff work? And he says, and I said, well, Lidu says we're all telepathic. Well, the majority of us, as long as you have angels, you're telepathic. And he goes, well, I must not have angels because I don't think I'm telepathic. And I'm like, I think Lidu would disagree. And so, fast forward like a week or something later, I totally forget about that conversation. And I say to her, I said, Lidu, do you have a message for anybody at the seminar or about the seminar? And she goes, yeah, I have one for Alex. She says his name. And I said, what is it? She goes, Alex, I deem you a telepath. And I totally forgot this conversation happened. She goes, I deem you a telepath. And if you ever question it, just ask your angels to show you in a way that you understand, that you would recognize. And I remember telling him, he goes, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that conversation too. So neither one of us were thinking about it. And that happens a lot, where we're not even thinking about it and she'll come into the memories. My husband, it took him a while to latch on to this stuff. It took him a while because he was the biggest skeptic on the planet. Mm-hmm. Once he saw me with the blindfold and he started to question everything. And then we went to contact in the desert. He goes, finally, okay, fine, Lidu, show me what you can do. Show me a memory or tell me about a memory that only I would know about. And I haven't told you. And so she goes and tells him about this memory of when he accidentally killed a turtle. It was an accident. He went to give him a bath and he's in Mexico. It was like 120 degrees. He puts water into a baseball cap that's plastic and it ended up killing the turtle. But she went into these details about it that even he forgot about until she mentioned it.
When he was a kid or something?
Yeah, when he was a little kid.
Wow.
Yeah, so she said these details. He's like, I forgot about that part. And so she has access to our memories. In fact, if I were to read a book, I can discuss the book with her right afterwards. It's as if she read it too. And it's so funny, whenever people meet her, they say, oh, did you tell her about me? I'm like, I don't need to tell her. I don't need to introduce you. She knows who you are because I know who you are.
Does she also read books herself?
Not so much,
Okay.
Because of the motor skills part, but but every book I've ever read, she's read.
Does she like watch documentaries or things like this? No. She thinks she learns everything she learns through. How does she learn stuff?
She's learned through what she calls mentors her whole life. Before she can talk, this is one of the first things she told me. She says, yeah, like I've always had mentors, and they've been teaching me all this time, and they've helped me keep it together. And this is way before she could even speak. She said she's been doing this ever since she was a little kid. I always noticed whenever we were going to sleep and the night is starting to come out, she would go into a quiet area in the house that's dark, and she would pace back and forth. And she did that since she was a kid, and she still does. And I didn't understand what she was doing until a couple of years ago when she said she was going somewhere. She was going to somewhere with her friends. Now it's just a reality for me. Now I just say, oh, Lidu, you can go ahead and go talk to your friends or whatever. And she'll just go back and forth, and you'll see her talking and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, the reality is so insane that we live in right now. It's just normal life to me now, though.
Yeah. So yeah, that must have been a completely radical shift in the way that you view the world when you learned about this stuff. Was there like a progression for you as far as like accepting it? Like, was there, like, I'm sure you had to think about things like, you know, am I going to tell anybody about this? Like, who do I tell about this? You know, do we talk to scientists, doctors? Like, what do we do? Like, this is, I'm sure that took a while, right?
Well, it was like everything happened on its own almost. I didn't even have to try. Everything just kind of started happening. And I never thought we would ever go public with anything, but it's like it all started happening when it was supposed to. And my daughter already knew what her life mission and calling was. But for me, it was like, I am so surprised by all of this. But
were you skeptical at all in the beginning, or were you never skeptical?
No, I wasn't skeptical.
You weren't? Wow.
But it started to happen little by little. She started introducing more complex ideas a little at a time. At first, it was just saying, oh man, she told me some insane stuff. But so at first it was like, oh, I can talk to spirits. And I remember one time her just gradually telling me, I said, you know, it's Day of the Dead. And I invited some ancestors to come visit. Have you seen any of them? And she goes, oh yeah. And then she said,
she's Day of the Dead, like the Mexican one or Halloween?
Like the Mexican,
right,
you know,
okay.
when you kind of bring in
El Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah. So my husband's side is I'm Mexican and my side's Puerto Rican. And so like, and we both kind of celebrate it. So, and so, yeah, she said, oh yeah, there's our family, but there's also other spirits. And she said like, there's a bunch of women here that died and their children are still around. And she said she was helping them how do you call it? She was helping them to get used to being passed on. And I was like, so Lidu, you're really this young girl, like a 14-year-old girl, and you're going to school and stuff, and in your free time, you're sitting there talking to spirits and you're doing a sixth sense type of thing. And she's like, yeah. So I just thought that was so crazy.
She said she was helping them pass on?
Yeah.
Like pass where? Did she say where?
Or she was helping them to get fulfilled. How do you say it? Get more comfortable with being dead, basically. She didn't say those words. I forgot how she worded it. It was much more eloquent.
Ladies and gents, the day has finally come where you can use the power of red light to regrow your hair. And you can save some serious cash by using our code. The iRestore Elite is clinically proven to help regrow your hair using 300 lasers and 200 LEDs that send red light directly to your scalp. You may have heard about this thing recently. Just pop it on while you're watching TV or reading a book and enjoy all the benefits. It's a system with proven results. In a double-blind clinical study, nearly every participant saw an increase in hair growth with this technology. The iRestore Elite uses VIXO lasers that feature wider beams of red light, which gives consistent coverage and results. Their unique use of optimal wavelengths reactivates dormant follicles to restore your natural hair. The lasers provide deeper spot stimulation, while the LEDs provide broader, uniform coverage to fill in the gaps in between the lasers. Plus, they offer a money-back guarantee, so you can try it absolutely risk-free. It's comfortable, it's lightweight, it looks badass, and I don't feel embarrassed when I'm wearing it around people. In fact, I can't keep people from wanting to try it themselves. It's quite annoying. We've talked about red light on this podcast before, so technology like this is quite reassuring. Give yourself the gift of hair confidence. For a limited time only, our listeners are getting a huge discount on the iRestore Elite when you use my code Danny at iRestore.com. Head on over to iRestore.com and use the code DANNY for my exclusive discount on the iRestore Elite. Please support the show and tell them we sent you. Hair loss can be frustrating, and thankfully you no longer have to fight it alone thanks to iRestore.
She was helping women that were struggling because they had their kids there still and they were passed on and they couldn't be with them in the same way. But she said, yeah, it was particularly for women. And I said, why are they coming to you? And she said that because I'm the one that can talk to them. But back then, I didn't quite understand what she could do. Now I know a lot more of what she can do.
It's such a bizarre thing because, you know, I often wonder, I've always talked about stuff like, you know, there's always something, it feels like there's always something there that you can't really perceive. You know, like certain places have certain energies or vibes to them, you know. There's always like, you know, everyone knows the story of like you walk into a house and like this room feels the energy is really dark or light or even like pets can detect things that we can't, you know what I mean? Like cats get spooked about things like, oh my God, was there a ghost? Can cats see ghosts? And I always wondered, you know, do animals have like extra sensory perception that we don't, because we grow up and we sort of get like indoctrinated and our minds get like, we get just molded into this rigid world that we live in where the boundaries are very clear, right? And there's not room for venturing out, right? Because it's like, if you're going to live in this world, there's certain things you're expected to do. You're expected to wake up, go to school, go to work, do whatever it is. You got to make money. You got to pay these bills. You buy a house, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, I've always thought like, is that sort of what's killing this stuff that may be inherent, or maybe this is like some sort of ancient ability that humans have always had that has just maybe atrophied over the long time with the rise of like the industrialization and the rise in technology that sort of like takes over for these senses, you know?
Yeah. And I believe that. I believe it is something that we've always had that we're just not utilizing because it's all trainable. Because that is what I do on my spare times. I train and stuff, and everyone can do it. And but the whole thing with animals, I'm always finding out every day more things my daughter can do, and that's another thing she can do is she can communicate with animals because they do speak telepathically, and so that's just something I recently found out. So I'm always finding amazing things out.
Yeah, I mean, you always hear about those stories too, you know, like the dog or the cat knowing when you're coming home. It's always like this weird thing that you brush it off, and if you actually take it seriously, you're a fool or you're a freak if you believe you're actually telepathic with your dog. It's like, but it's this thing in the zeitgeist that everyone knows about, that there's millions of people that will attest to these anecdotal stories of their dogs knowing things, like having this intuition, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree.
So has there been any, like, anybody in the scientific community that's taken you guys seriously or talked to you or validated this stuff? Or what has that been like?
Yeah, almost everyone in the scientific community has been so excited for us. So my daughter specifically, we work closely with Dr. Diane Hennacy Powell, and
people who don't know who she is, can you explain her background?
So she is the one, the Telepathy Tapes research is based off of her research. And so we've actually done some study or some experiments with her that were really fun. And we're actually working with Stanford and I believe Harvard right now. And we're going to do some peer-reviewed, what do you call it? Documentations and stuff. But Lidu, whenever scientists see what she does, they end up baffled. Their eyes go, they start off really skeptical, but in a nice way, not like healthy skeptical. They'll start off skeptical and then they're like, like this at the end. Her eyes are wide open. And many people and scientists will cry. Like they just cry after they see. So like what she normally does is just, it's so easy for her. It's just, reading my mind. Like, we can, we'll write down a word or a phrase. So this one experiment we did with Dr. Diane, I would be on the other side of the room and I would roll some dice and then I would go to a random word, and the word is a 4-letter word. And then I would take, in this particular experiment, I gave Lidu a blank piece of paper because I was trying to get her to get more independent, because this is a skill for her to be able to spell and stuff. It requires a lot of motor skill and stuff. So I just gave her a blank piece of paper and told her to say letters. And so I give her a blank piece of paper. I'm holding it behind her. And they have cameras all over me to see I'm not cueing her, and then she just spells it. And she's just spelling out every word that I'm doing. And so that's what got their attention at like Stanford and stuff. They're like, oh my gosh, Since then, I now can do it from across the room without holding anything. Like she has her own little thing that she's spelling on. And so, and she literally, like, it doesn't even have to, it's so amazing.
Can you just think of something and she can spell it out?
Yeah. Yeah, I can think of, it could be a word, a phrase. I can look at a picture in a book and she could describe it, and it won't even be how I was thinking of it. Like, for example, there was one time I was looking at a picture, and it was a picture of like these animals having a picnic, and there was a bunch of tea and stuff. And all I was focusing on in the picture was animals having a picnic. And my daughter spells out animals having tea. And I was not focusing on the tea at all, but she said it in her own way. Yeah. So when we've done demonstrations on stage, like for example, I've had it where, like somebody would look at a picture and they would show the audience the picture. My daughter wouldn't see it. And then they would put the picture down, and then she would describe the picture first. And then there would be a phrase at the top, and she would spell out the phrase. And so there's things like that. There's also where a couple of ways we've demonstrated was people would write down a question. And then my daughter would, without me even saying the question out loud, I say, Lidu, you got the answer? And she'll be like, yes. And then she'll just spell out the answer. And then I'll say, all right, show everybody what the question was, And so like, she's really, really amazing. The funny thing is, so many of these kids can do this. I'm convinced, and I can't say this for everyone, but I'm convinced that all the kids that spell can do it. Mm-hmm. So I take my daughter to a spelling camp every year. And this year, just like a couple of weeks ago, I went and I sat with my friend. And so her son I mentioned earlier, he's like 22 now. And so I'm sitting with her, and her son's downstairs, and she's like, wow, this whole telepathy stuff, this is amazing that Lidu's doing this. And she's showing this. And she says, do you think William could do it? I'm like, Lidu said, definitely William could do it. She said, definitely. They've been talking for years at the Hill. And she goes, you think like you can try it? And I said, oh, I don't know. I've never held the board for William because, like there sometimes, they won't spell for certain people. He's never really spelled for his parents. So he has to go to a provider to communicate with them. And I said, I can try. I said, Lidu, first of all, is William telepathic? Can you tell my friend? And Lidu says, yeah, he most definitely is. And then I said, okay, can you ask him telepathically if he'll come up and demonstrate for his parents, for his mom? And so she does her channeling thing. She kind of does this thing with her eyes when she's channeling. And then she comes back and then she goes, okay, he says, go ahead and set it up. He goes, yes, go ahead and set it up. And so he comes upstairs and he's just smiling and stuff. I said, hey, William, and William only says one word at a time. And I said, hey, William, I'm going to show you some telepathy with Lidu. She said that you're down to show us and show your mom. You ready? And he goes, uh-huh. And then he sits down. And so I have Lidu do one word, super easy. And then I said, all right. So I asked his mom to write a word down. So she writes down just the word fly because she wasn't sure how he was going to do. So I go over to him, and he's actually much more advanced than Lidu is at spelling because he's been doing it longer. So I go over there. I barely hand him the board, and he goes, F-L-Y, fly. He does it really quick, super fast. He's not even thinking about it. And I was like, whoa, I barely even gave him the board and he does that. And his mom's like, what? And then, so we did a couple more bigger words. And he's just super fast. And then because he's like Lidu, I know exactly all the stuff I could show his mom. And so I'm telling her to write down questions, and he's just answering them. And then she's like, I got to call my husband because he's a skeptic. And so husband comes up. And he writes down the word mountain. And I even said to the mom, I said, can you hold the board now? And so she goes over and he just types, he touches the letter M and says mountain. He just, because he's been trained to just say the words now. So he just touched one letter and said mountain. And I was like, whoa. I was like, he is amazing. And then like his family's like so blown away. The next day we were going on a hike.
So it doesn't have to be your mom or your dad to read their minds. They can read anybody's mind.
Yes. That's what a lot of people don't realize. They really can. You don't have to have a former connection. And I showed a friend of mine came from New Jersey because I grew up in South Jersey too. And she was getting her son into this. And this is her first time at the camp. And I said, and I'm telling her about the telepathy. And I said how wonderful William had done the night before. And I said, let me show you. And so we didn't actually have a letter board, but my daughter, she knew that we were going to need some kind of a letter thing. And she had made letters the night before and insisted on bringing it with her, like a paper with a bunch of letters on it. And I said, Lidu, can I use your letter thing to show William's telepathy to this person? And she's like, yeah. And she knew that this was going to happen. That's another thing is they have pre-cognition. I'll get into that. So she knew it was going to happen. And so I go up to William and I said, hey, William, is it okay if you show some telepathy? And he's like, yes. And so I said, okay. Actually, before I went to him, I said, can you just tell me a word and just tell me any word? She goes, I don't know, cloud. So I go over to William and I just give him that paper. So this is not even a standard letterboard. It's just a paper. And he just touches the letter C and says cloud. And she's like, oh my gosh. And then the people at this camp, because they're all, these kids spell, but none of them really do telepathy. And they're like, I can't believe William could do this too. I had no idea William could do it. And I'm thinking in my head, I think they all can. But I'm just thinking that. And so I asked William in front of everyone, I said, hey, how do you feel about people seeing this? And he goes, it makes me really happy because it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot to spell, and telepathy is so much easier. And so, and his parents are like, what do I do with this? And so they actually contacted, I believe they contacted the colleges near there saying, hey, if you're wanting to study this stuff, then maybe you can do something where you make him a student or something like that. So they're looking into it now. And I said to them, they're like, what do I do? I'm like, just ask William. Just ask him. What should he do? They have precognition. You know.
Oh, I had this guy on the podcast a couple times who he was in the military and he got a severe head injury. He got, help me out, Steve, if I'm
I think he got shot in the head.
He got shot. He was doing.
He had a helmet.
He was doing a military exercise somewhere in the Middle East, and he accidentally got shot in the head with a rifle round. And he was wearing a helmet, and it basically knocked him unconscious. He survived, but he had a severe brain injury. So they flew him back to the United States. They did all these evaluations and tests and psychological evaluations and all this stuff. And they admitted him into this program that was called Stargate, where they do this thing called remote viewing. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they give these people who have interesting abilities, not necessarily telepathy abilities, but just unique brain chemistry. They give them coordinates, geographical coordinates, and something else, like some sort of cues they sort of like give them, like what to look for or whatever. And these people like close their eyes and they're somehow able to give vague details about locations. Like I think they give them a time to go to and a location to go to. And they focus and meditate on it or whatever. And I've never seen the proof, but allegedly there is proof of this. Because I mean, the government spent millions of dollars on this, and they're able to pull out details, like go to this place, like say they're sitting in the U.S. and they're saying go to Russia, go to this town in Russia yesterday or whatever at 1 p.m. So they do it and they go, okay, I'm sitting at this cafe. There's a guy there with white hair having coffee with a woman with brown hair or something like that. They're able to do things like this, right? And this guy explained to me he has this whole process. And it's called remote viewing, and it's been done for a long time. And it just makes me wonder, you know, there seems to be a clear connection, and there's also these crazy, way out there conspiracy theories, you could call them, of people that have come out saying that the government has tried to recruit autistic children to do like telepathic spying on governments and stuff like that. And it's just wild because it seems like, just from what you're telling me, it would be totally possible.
That wouldn't surprise me at all. It would not surprise me. Yeah, the remote viewing thing, I would say it's very, very real. A lot of people, because I can do the blindfold vision, they said, how is this different from remote viewing? And I said, I think it's a very little difference. The way I would say is different is remote viewing, you are going into a different time and to a different place. And with we call this local remote viewing, where we're seeing the environment around us. Yeah, I've actually, a lot of people, they want to recruit me to do remote viewing because they're like, oh, you must be really good. And I've only done it a couple of times where I would do these different methods, like the way the government taught and everything. I would do these methods, and every time I would have a really good experience where I would go and I would not only see it, but I would feel like I'm there. I remember for example, one time I had a target and it was just a number. And then I did it, and I immediately felt like I was on a boat, and I could smell the air, and I could hear the birds in the air, and I could see the water going past really, really quickly. And so they say not to actually label it. So I was like, okay, well, outside, water, a boat, I see a boat. And I was saying all this, and then I saw the picture, and it was exactly what it was. But it threw me off at first because the picture was still, and in the thing I saw was a video. It was like I was there, and I remember thinking, well, this is kind of different. Like what they're showing is just a still shot. I'm like, wait a minute, of course it's just going to be a still shot because of it's just a picture. But I remember thinking, wow, that was really clear. And so yeah, there's a lot of remote viewers that are trying to recruit me. I haven't but it's it's kind of
You're all right over there, Steve?
Yeah. Trying to get at Tom's.
Oh, he's eating Tums.
But yeah, it's kind of to do the process, it takes a lot of training and stuff, and I'm like, that's a lot of work. I'm gonna just stick to this kind of training for now, at least. My daughter, she has this ability. I don't know if I would call it remote viewing or what, but she has she has pre-cognition abilities, and she can actually jump into a place and see how something's going to turn out and come back and tell me. Like, she'll just kind of go like this, and she'll go in, and then she'll come back, and she'll tell me how it's going to be. And but I don't know if she's jumped. She told me that she can go into multiple timelines, and she can talk to me in these other timelines and stuff like that. And it's just kind of nuts. But yeah, there's been many times that she would tell me something's going to happen, and I know for sure it's going to happen because she told me, and I know it's important for me to hear it. Like, for example, I was at the Psy Games, and I was in contact in the desert. I didn't even know I was going to be invited to those things. But I remember hearing about it and thinking, hey, Lidu, like, should I go to that thing? Should we both go to that? What do you think? And I'm thinking being a spectator. I did not think going on stage or anything. And Lidu says, we're going to be there, and we're going to be center stage. And I just remember her saying that. And I'm like, oh, well, then I guess I'll wait for an invite then. And about a month later, I got the invite. And Lidu was totally right. We were totally center stage. Like, we were very much a big deal in those places. So
can she go back into the past? Can she
Well, yeah, because she can go into, I don't know how she's
before she was born.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah, because she can access. I don't know how she's accessing this stuff, but she can access our memories easily. She can remember her past lives. She can tell us about our past lives. I don't have any memory of my past lives at all, but and I don't really like asking about that stuff because I can't validate it unless I can, but she doesn't say that stuff on her own unless I need to hear it. She can also, and she's done this many times, go into other people's dreams and train them that way. She tells me she trains me
into other people's dreams.
Yeah. Like, so I'll give you a couple of, or she'll go to their dreams or in the in-between state. So let me give you a couple of examples. So like one of my friends, her name's Olivia, and she was in South Africa at the time, and I got a message at night, and she says, hey, Dalia, did Lidu just come visit me? And I said, I don't know. Let me go ask her. So my daughter's really into Sonic the Hedgehog. Like she's loves Sonic the Hedgehog.
Really? That's so funny.
Yeah. And so like I go over to Lidu and she's just, before I went to Lidu, no, I said, why do you think Lidu visited? And she goes, well, I just woke up and all I could hear is Sonic, 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 you know? And I said, oh, let me go ask her. That sounds like her. And so I go over there and Lidu's just laughing already. Like she knows exactly what I'm going to ask her. And I was like, what are you laughing at? And then she says this verbally. She goes, it was me. And then I brought out the letter. I'm like, what do you mean? What was you? And she goes, and she spells out, I repeated Sonic. And then I said, well, why did you do that? And she goes, because she asked. And then so I went to my friend and I said, so I told her what she said. And she goes, well, I wasn't going to tell you this, but for the last 3 days, I've been asking Lidu, hey, if you can hear me, let me know. And I guess she expected, her to tell me through the letterboard or something, but I hadn't talked to her for a couple of days on the letterboard. And so that was probably the only way Lidu could tell her by going to her dreams. But there's been several times where I'm meeting someone and this person's going to be important in my life. And for example, Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, she actually she works with kids, teaching them blindfold vision, and we were somehow divinely going to meet. And so I get on a call with her, a Zoom call, and she tells me that she has a dream about Lidu, and I don't think she's even seen a picture of her yet. And she said, yeah, like I saw her and I saw this art canvas and I saw this color blue going onto the art canvas. She goes, is she an artist? I'm like, she's a huge artist. Yes. And the color blue is the color that's associated, like that she identifies with the color blue, like that's her. The color blue and her is the same person. and I believe she even saw what she looked like. And then I had we ended up being, oh my goodness. She actually just went to a dark room retreat for 9 days. And when you go to dark room, and that's when you're sitting in complete darkness and you fast and you have these incredible experiences, these incredible spiritual experiences. You get spiritual visitors. It's an incredible thing. And so she actually just went to one, and she said Lidu visited her and twice, and she was telling her about how to teach. Her and another friend from the Hill were teaching her how to teach telepathy. And I asked Lidu about it, and Lidu's like, yeah, I did.
Have you ever heard about isolation tanks? Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried that?
Yeah, I have.
That's pretty bizarre because it literally cuts out all sensory. You're in this floating salt water, right?
Yeah.
Where your body is literally weightless and it's pitch black, and it's a crazy experience.
Yeah, it's similar to that, except for with the dark room, you're doing it for several days instead of like, right. And so you can imagine what that does to your mind. Some people kind of panic about it at first, and they always have a way for you to get out if it's too much. But if you manage to stay, you have the most incredible, insightful experiences. And
so if you go into these dark room retreats for a few days, the lack of sensory input somehow can awaken this stuff within you.
Yes. Yeah.
And does it last after, or does it kind of?
Yeah, my friend, Dr. Edith, she actually said it took her about 10 years to integrate all the information from the first one she did. And we're still needing to catch up about the second one. She says she has a lot to tell me about the second one. She just barely got out of it. So I'm excited. But yeah, there's these groups of people, I believe they're called the Kogis in South America. And they actually have the children in caves for years until their visionary abilities become mature, and they're able
What's the
to. Name? I'm going to say it wrong. I think it's
still today they do this.
Yeah. So she said I think it's Kogis. I can't remember the name, but yeah, she said even her first darkroom, they were visiting her. After the darkroom, she was able to communicate with her unborn children. She didn't even know she was going to have children yet, and I've met. Dr. Edith. And I've actually met her children, and they are incredible. Like they're incredible now, but they knew that they were coming down to do a big work. In fact, her children, before they were born, were saying how this is a time where more of these kinds of children needed to be born to become the new teachers. And so they were asking her, hey, can you please have us? So it was like, you have free will, you can make a decision, but we need certain people to have us so that we can start teaching the world. And
Hexclad sponsored the show, and of all things, they sent me this frying pan.
And I have to tell you, it solves a huge issue we've been dealing with in the kitchen. It's a thick stainless steel pan, and then they cut grooves into it, and they filled that with non-stick. It's what creates this hex pattern, and that's what keeps you from scraping that non-stick stuff off. That's the key to its design. You could use a metal spatula if you wanted, and the non-stick would be protected. And after the first breakfast I cooked on this thing, I instantly went online and purchased the rest of the set. My wife is never excited about the stuff I buy for our kitchen, but with this thing, she was ecstatic. So I highly encourage you to check out Hexclad if you want to make your kitchen life easy. Hexclad products have a lifetime warranty and are used by Gordon Ramsay's restaurants. And my favorite, they're toxin-free. We're not living in the dark ages anymore. Non-stick pans shouldn't have to poison you every time you use them. For a limited time only, our listeners get 10% off their order with our exclusive link. Just head on over to hexclad.com/Danny. That's HEXCLAD.com/DANNY. Make sure to let them know we sent you. Stop poisoning yourself and start cooking with Hexclad's revolutionary cookware. Do we have free will? If your daughter can see the future and the future's already written,
well, she will tell me.
That's a question about free will, right? Like that means like, do we have free will, or is the future already determined? Because if the future's already determined, we're not in control.
Well, according to her, we definitely have decisions we can make, because she will tell me if I'm about to make the wrong decision and go against the teachers. She calls them the teachers, the ones that are guiding us. If I'm about to go off of the path because of things I'm thinking about or something, she'll tell me like, Mom, if you do this, you're going against what they're, and it's stuff that I'm just thinking about and I'm not saying out loud or anything. And she goes, if you do this, you're going off the path and you're going against the teacher's thing, but she barely does that. But
who are the teachers?
They're like the mentors. Sometimes they call them angels. Like she calls them angels sometimes, but she mostly calls them teachers. And they're the ones kind of helping us on our path. Because we made a, this is how she describes it. It's like we decided to play a video game, and we went down and we had a plan of what we wanted to do in that video game. And we have these teachers or whatever they're called that are helping us to do the plan that we wanted. And it's not like they're above us or anything, and they're not helping us because it's their job. It's more like we are just like them, and it's our turn to play the game, and they're going to get to play next, And it's like they're just kind of watching. They won't interfere unless we ask. That's another thing she says.
Interesting.
Yeah, but she's always saying, Mom, tell your teachers this, tell or ask him to do this. She never says tell. She says ask. Ask them to help me to spell better, or ask them.
It's kind of like praying.
Yeah, exactly. I always think telepathy is just another word for prayer. Like you're just saying, you don't have to say it out loud or anything. You just talk to these beings and they're helping you. And so,
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And every time I do ask, I'm always getting responses.
How has this experience affected your view on, you said you grew up really religious and going to church, not going to church and stuff, but you were religious, you believed in God and all that stuff. How did this affect that belief or that worldview?
It makes me value the structure of religion even more. So I always see it like there is feminine spirituality. The extreme side of feminine spirituality is running in the woods and taking psychedelics and stuff. That's the extreme side. And then the extreme side of masculine spirituality is going to a very highly structured church. And so something in between is, there's beauty in both. And something in between is where we are. There's wisdom in both. My daughter, I started going to church again because my daughter really loves the angels that go there.
She likes going there?
Yeah, she loves it. Like because of the angels. And a lot of these kids are like going to church because of the beings that are always being called in these prayers. So in fact, one of the researchers, he was a grew up Catholic, and he was still a very, very Catholic man. And he wasn't even sure, he was hoping that telepathy was real. And when he saw Lidu do telepathy first time, he got so excited. He's like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
And then she asked him to read her mind, or wait, the other way around. He asked her to read his mind. And because he had the sensation from her that it was like safe. And she said, yeah, there was something telepathic already going on, like where she told him before. But anyway, so she reads his mind. Like he puts a word on his phone and he puts it to the camera. He doesn't show Lidu, turns off the phone. And then Lidu spells it out on the letterboard. Like he's holding the letterboard. She spells it out. And he was just like, wow. And he's like tearing up and he's like, this is amazing. He goes, but how does this affect, he's like, I'm a religious man. How does this affect that? I said, you don't have to worry about that. Lidu is religious too.
Yeah.
And I said, in fact, a lot of these kids are. And it's not that you need church or anything. It's more like they see the big picture. And, and they see the value in what they're trying to accomplish. And what specifically with Lidu, she said she just likes that the angels are there.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to it. My thing with religion has always been the contesting of the Bible and all the different people who have different interpretations of ancient texts. And the Bible was something that was written by human beings. Human beings are flawed historically, and human beings historically want to push narratives. And the Bible has been this 2,000-year game of telephone that has been pushed by people who had different incentives, different motives, made money doing it by preaching. And, my whole thing, like, is it, you have to follow certain rules in certain religions. And like the Bible says this, or the Bible says this, it's right. Well, I'm like, and then, if you have any ability to reason, it's like, well, no, that doesn't make sense. Like, how could that be right? But at the same time, it's like, there's definitely something else out there, right? That it may not fit in line with the Bible itself, but like, I kind of have like this intuitive thing in me that if people tell me I have to follow a certain code, I don't want to do it.
Right.
I've always been like that. So,
yeah,
that's always been an interesting question for me.
Structures, over time, they tend to become, people start to think that they are limiting. Like once you're in a structure for a certain amount of time, they start to think, this is oppressive. It doesn't matter what the structure is. It could be a government structure. It could be school. It could be anything. Like Christianity, for example, definitely was a rebellious thing when it first started. It was what made it so rebellious was this idea that you didn't have to be rich to go to the temple and to be with God. You didn't have, if you were poor, you could still be with God. So it was this idea that everybody could do it. Everybody can have the presence of God with them. And so it started out as this really rebellious thing, and people were having to like sneak off and study. And then finally the Roman, after, there's a lot of history behind it, but the Roman government said, you know what, we're just going to protect these people now. And, there's a lot of like government, there's a lot of like reasons why behind it, some egotistic ones, but some of it was good. But there's like, you know what, we're going to make this the dominant religion and we're going to protect these people.
Right.
And so it became a church. So it started out again like this spiritual movement, and it just became, over time, it became this structure. And then people started to focus on how it was feeling like oppression. There's beautiful things about a structure, and then like the upside of structure is that you kind of have this idea of what you're supposed to be and so there's a lot less anxiety about what you think you're supposed to be. Like if you are growing up and you actually like the church environment or something, and you have this idea like, well, this is what I'm supposed to do in my life. The downside of like the feminine side of spirituality, again, there's upsides and downsides to both. They're both very important to me. But the downside of it is there is an anxiety that comes with not knowing what you're supposed to do, kind of going out there and discovering it. And so, so there is this anxiety that comes with, and feeling of isolation, like, what am I supposed to do? And you're studying all these different things and you're feeling kind of lost. So there's like, and we're just talking extremes again, on the upside again of structure and masculine spirituality, so like churches and stuff. The upside is a whole bunch of people are saying these powerful prayers together, and over time these things are becoming more and more powerful, much more powerful than if you were doing the prayers yourself. And so, or you were just coming up with your own. So when we're doing like these classes, like blindfold vision classes, and we're doing stuff like that, we notice when people are together, much more powerful, like what they're able to accomplish, way more powerful than if they're trying it on their own. Like, for example, like I co-run these seminars. We're gonna have our first, like the guy I co-run with, his name is Alex Steffen, and he does the telekinesis portion, and I do blindfold vision.
What's telekinesis?
Telekinesis is when you can, well, people will say you can move objects with your mind.
Okay.
And so when people try to do telekinesis on their own, they pretty much get nowhere after a year. Like they pretty much get nowhere. But in these classes, they were able to get, like, for example, they're able to move a pinwheel, and that's like a little piece of foil on a pin, and you're able to move it with no dome. But on the second day, we're able to put glass over that thing, and people are still able to move it. That's just one example. But they get to the point where after like a couple of days, they're able to move a can on a table with telekinesis, and they're able to there was this one time, like he said that they were able to grow sprouts. Like he would give them these seeds, and they would have a control one that no one's touching, and then there's the ones that they have, and the very next day they're sprouting, and the control ones are not sprouting, and stuff like that. He's able to get them to move ping pong balls on the table. So at our seminar, what we're going to do, our next one's in October, and we're going to just have people demonstrating high level abilities. So like I'll be demonstrating the blindfold vision. My daughter will demonstrate telepathy. And we're going to have a guy that can demonstrate electrokinesis. So that, I know I'm just throwing so much stuff at you. So electrokinesis is the ability to turn off lights and stuff with just your energy. He's able to light bulbs with his hand. You're able to see electric stuff coming out of his hands. And he's also going to demonstrate telekinesis. So he's going to move like big things off the table. Like he's going to move like cans and stuff without even being near it. And so we're going to be demonstrating this stuff, and then we're going to teach them how to do it. And because it's a group, they're going to pick it up pretty fast. So anyway, the whole thing is like we're really powerful when we're together. So there is the plus side, but yeah, because we're all ego and stuff, the ego comes in. It can make these amazing. What churches were trying to do was pretty amazing, but then people will come in and kind of mess it up, kind of like schools and stuff, people
corruption.
There's always going to be some sort of corruption in an organized thing, and that's the downside of it.
And that's been my biggest contention with stuff like that, like especially if you have one person, when you give somebody power, it's never good. It's usually never good, right? When you have somebody who has power over all these people, like in a church, right? And you have all these people, a lot of them who are probably vulnerable people, right? And they're giving in to this one person who has a direct line to God, right? And he can say whatever he wants. And not to say there's no benefit in like having a group together and being and believing in one thing and having that structure. I think that's really important. I think that's beneficial. But you can you can easily see how human nature can turn that whole thing sideways, and bad things can happen very easily, and they have in the past. And before Christianity, there was polytheism, where there was it was in Greek culture, it was standard to believe in many gods, right? People had a god. There was a god for everything. There was a god of wine and party, a god of the ocean, a god of the sea, a god of the air, like a god of laughter, and it was an interesting time. And that's also, it's curious because during that time, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, magic was also talked about a lot, people doing magic and magicians. Jesus was called a magician. So can she find out what was going on 2,000 years ago?
Well, it's funny because like even if you're looking at Christianity and stuff, like in the Catholic Church specifically, they had the mystics.
Yes.
And so the mystics were able to do basically all the stuff Lidu could do.
Right.
And
that's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And so Lidu actually considers, like I asked her, I kind of I said, Lidu, do you consider yourself a mystic? And she goes, yeah, you can say that. But what you were saying earlier, though, I think it's important to recognize that, like having one person and people having this idea that one person needs to be the one that you go to, that's dangerous thinking, I think. And so whenever one of my messages out there is, like, first of all, you don't need me to learn blindfold vision. Like you already have the ability, you were born with it. And I'm not separate from it. Like, it's like, I want to put that out there. Like, anybody can do that kind of stuff. Anyone could do telekinesis. Anyone can do it. We all were born with the ability. Try not to think like just because one person's doing it, they're separate from you, and they're like up here and we're down here, and it's not like that. Even my daughter says with telepathy, we all have the ability. We just it's easy for me to just think, oh, it's because your brain is different from mine. That's why you can do it and I can't. She goes, no, you still can do it.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of remembering that. And the other thing was, I forgot what the other thing was.
I mean, it's just like anything, you know, if you spend your days waking up, rushing off to work, figuring out what you're going to do for dinner, feeding your kids and your family just in time to get, you know, maybe 6 hours of sleep before you got to wake up and do it all over again. When do people in general have time to just sit down, close their eyes, clear their mind, and think about this stuff? 99.9% of people don't. They don't have that time. And, you know, if you're in the position your daughter's in, that's most of her time.
That's right.
So, like, imagine if people were able to just disconnect from the world for, if imagine, like, that's mandatory. Like, everyone has to take a week out of every month and just disconnect and go to the woods, turn off everything. Like, imagine how that might be able to unlock something.
Oh, I think that's so important. I think that's incredible if everyone were to do something like that. The way it's funny too, because a lot of people think psychic ability here and this is where I am. So that's another limited idea that some people have is psychic abilities here. This is me. I have to do all kinds of stuff to be able to access these psychic abilities. Not really. Like psychic abilities can also be as easy. If you just not call it psychic abilities and call it your senses, enhanced senses, then don't even call it enhanced senses, just your senses. And you already have the ability to do this. You're just not utilizing them. Or if you don't think you can do it, you're not going to. It could be as easy to access as being able to hear or being able to smell. It's that easy to be able to do these kind of things. As long as you know it and you're kind of, you know, you might have to be trained on it in the beginning just because you have to wrap your mind around the fact that you can do it. So there's what I'm usually doing with people is all I'm doing is giving them, erasing their doubts and and there's these different ways I do it, but all I have to do is show them that they can do it. And then once they see it, it becomes their new reality. And they're like, oh, I guess I do have this ability. But until they know they can, they won't be able to see. It's weird. Like you have to know it first.
Right.
And so with the blindfold, what I do is I will have people just put it on, and you know I'll kind of train them in how to tell things without their eyes. You know, just by energy, and it gets so incredible. Like you can really go into another room and people can just still be able to do it. But what was my point? Yeah. So what I do is I'll trick them into being able to see visually. So what I'll do is I'll start by putting colors right here. And at first they can't see it, but then eventually they start to see a little bit of color, and they're thinking maybe some light is leaking through my mask. They're going to think that because that's what their mind is capable of rationalizing. And what I'll do is I'll keep going further and further away without them realizing I'm going further away, or I'll have somebody go farther and my voice is still next to them. And they're thinking, oh, I must just be peeking right here, when really I'm like way over there now. Or I might be way behind them, and I'll purposely go to a place like that. And then I'll say, go ahead and take off your mask and see where you're looking. And they're like, what the? They're like, the whole time I thought I was just like looking right here, but you're like 10 feet behind me. How did you do that? You know? And so once they see that and experience, once they experience it, it goes from belief to knowing, and it becomes the new reality. And then they're able to do it. And it's just so much of it is just our knowing that we can. And it's so amazing that half the time we don't even think that we can have certain ability. We don't even think to think that way. And the other half is like, we just don't really believe we can. And so that stops us from doing it.
So the people in academia, the scientific people who are doing these studies that are inviting you, I think you said Harvard and Stanford, the people that are interested in this, do they explain to you what their hypothesis is, or what specifically they're trying to do? Like how are they conducting this study? Like what types of things are they asking you? Are they doing with you guys?
Yeah, right now it's just basic super basic telepathy, just trying to show that telepathy is real. Like that's what, with as far as with the vision without eyes, I have actually been reached out with them. I'm working with oh my gosh, Alex Gomez. He's in Spain. He's researching it, and then also with IONS. And so IONS has reached out like with Dean Radin and everything.
The
and,
IONS Institute.
Yeah, so they've reached out.
Stand for again?
That one's in California, like northern, in the Bay Area, I think.
And what is their conventional explanation for you for explaining just the stuff with looking with seeing stuff with the blindfolds on? Mind Sight.
That's what they're trying to figure out. Like it's more about trying to figure out what's going on.
Has anyone ever tried to give a conventional explanation for it? Like, oh, that's just this.
Some people think it might be dermal vision, like we have senses in our skin.
Dermal vision.
Yeah. So I work with blind people, and I'm talking people with no eyes, people who were born blind, never seen light a day in their life, and in just a couple of days they're reading, and how do they go from one to the other? Like a lot of it is mindset. They know that I can do it, and they know other blind people have done it, so that they know they have enough. It's how, oh my gosh, okay. So it's almost like you have to have faith. You know how the Bible even says you have to have faith to see something happen. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, I don't like saying the word faith because a lot of people associate faith to like a belief. And it's for me, it's more like you have to have a knowing. And so they already have the knowing because I can do it and I've taught other people. So they already have that and they trust what I say. And so when I say it, they just start having the experience. So anyway, so yeah, with blind people, it's the weirdest thing. They open in the same areas as a sighted person does. We have windows when we open up, and so there's certain places where on our head and on our skin where we're seeing, and so that's why you'll see us, the sighted or blind, you'll see us kind of moving to see more, and it's because we'll have windows. So, like, for example, I worked with a blind woman with no eyes, like she blind since birth, and she's able to see like right here. She's also she can see behind her head too. And down here really, really well. And
the scientific explanation for that is dermal vision.
No, that's just one explanation.
Okay.
It's more like a hypothesis that right now,
okay,
like we really don't know what's going on. we are still we're in the baby stages of this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what I do with blind people. So what I do is I get them really good at being able to sense things. And I do the same with sighted. Get them really good at being able to sense things through touch at first because their mind can rationalize touch. Like, okay. And then I get them really good at being able to be near something. So they have their hands over it and they can tell what it is. And then let's say I have two shapes. I'll put the shapes up here. They put their hands here. They can tell it apart. Mm-hmm. And then I start to say, okay, no hands anymore. Just tell me what it is. And they can tell them. They can tell. And then I start gradually moving away and they can always tell. So I'm starting with these different senses that they don't realize they have. And we're making them, even with smell, you can tell it apart by smell too, even at a distance. And so we're getting them good at all this. Finally, once they see like, hey, all of these weaker senses, I've always been able to tell it apart. So when I tell them, now we're going to use light, and they've never seen light in their life, when I tell them that, they believe it because they've already been able to tell it apart in all these different ways. And so just takes them like 5 minutes to be able to see light. And again, I don't know how it's happening. I just know it happens. And so I just know how to teach it. Mm-hmm. And so, so what I usually do with a blind person, or just I do it with sighted too. Sighted you have to have a blindfold or something. What I do is I'll start off by saying, because contrast is how you tell the difference. So I'll start off by putting them in a dark room. And it has to be a completely dark room. And then I'll say, I just want you to tell me if there's light or if it's darkness. Tell me the difference. And I'll usually have something like a little light that I can go like this so there's no sound or anything. And they get really good at that in just like a couple of minutes. And then once they're good, I start moving the source of light to different areas. They get really good at being able to tell me where they are. Like we do these little things where they get so good that they can tell me if it's behind them, in front of them, to the sides. Then they get to the point, I kind of have to teach them how to point because like blind people usually have never really pointed before. So they're pointing, but I teach them how to point and they'll get really good at pointing to where the light source is. And when I move it, being able to track it and all of this stuff. So they get really good at that. Again, it doesn't take that long. It takes like an hour max. So they can do that part. Once they can do that, that's white light and dark. That's white and black, basically. White light and darkness. And so the next thing I do to introduce color, is what I'll do is I'll bring in a color and I'll say, tell me, and I'll put the color in front of the light and I'll say, are you looking at darkness, white light, or something different? And so I'll always say something different because they have no idea what colors look like. And they get good at that. So it takes them a few minutes, but then they can start saying, hey, I see what the something different is. And once they can easily detect that something different, I'll tell them the color. I'm like, that's right, that's red. That's right, that's red. And then once they're really, really good at detecting red, then I'll introduce the next color. I'll say, is it white light, red, darkness, or different? And we'll do it again until they get most of the colors. After that, then we can bring them into a lit room and have them do it there. Because, and then next step is telling them, hey, now that you can see colors, you should be able to see shapes. And they get really nervous. I'm like, no, it's just colors. You're just looking for the white. And then you're looking for, you already know white light and darkness. Guess what? Darkness is just black and white light. So I want you to just find the white, and then they'll find, I'm like, now I want you to find the black and just describe what you're seeing. And then so from that, they start to differentiate shapes.
Right.
And then I introduce letters and stuff to them once they're really good at shapes. And they get nervous again. And I says, letters are just shapes. All you have to do is describe the shapes that you're seeing.
Right.
And as soon as they're describing it, they kind of already know, like, oh, there's two slanted lines touching each other. Then there's so it must be an A, and so they'll do that. And then once they're good at that, I start putting it together, and then I'll be like, go ahead and tell me what you read or you see. And they'll say all three letters, and then they'll say the word. I'm like, okay, you just read your first word,
Wow.
And so it gets very emotional for them. And, but yeah, this is an ability. Like, you don't have to have eyes. Like, and what's really fun is once a blind person is doing this, there's a lot of other little games I do with depth perception and all this stuff. But once they are doing it, I will give them a blindfold just for fun and say, and go ahead and read this for me and tell me the shapes. And they're usually better at it with the blindfold because it's blocking out more light. One person told me it's because it creates this contrast, the blindfold, and helps them to see a little better.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and so I always find it so fun. It's so fun for me. I'm like, wow, a blind man with a blindfold, and he's sitting there reading and stuff, and so crazy.
If you've ever shopped online, chances are you've purchased something from a website powered by Shopify. It's easy to spot that little purple Shop Pay button, and that's what we use for our merch store. That purple button has all your payment and shipping info, so you don't have to track down your card or hope your browser remembered your payment info. There's a reason why so many businesses use Shopify, and that's because they make it incredibly easy to run and start your own business. It's the business behind the business that really matters, and that's where Shopify excels with incredible tools and workflows. Shop Pay has the best converting checkout on the planet, meaning fewer abandoned carts and way more sales. You can spread your brand's word with the built-in marketing and email tools. Don't want to build the page by yourself? Shopify has hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand and forget the code. Like Daylight Computer, whose website is gorgeous. So if you've got a product, a dream, and a drive to make it happen, Shopify is the platform that helps you do it with ease. Because businesses that sell more sell with Shopify. If you want less carts abandoned, it's time for you to head on over to Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/DannyJones. All lowercase. Again, that's shopify.com/DannyJones to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/DannyJones. It's linked down below. Now back to the show. So you want to demonstrate some of this stuff? You got your blindfolds.
So I have several.
I got one too. You brought me one too.
I have several blindfolds. They're all different. So these are all blackout masks.
Yeah, I can't see anything. It's completely black.
Yeah, so these are all different ones. They're all blackout. They block out all light.
No party tricks here. These things are literally like hard plastic blindfolds with tons of padding.
So let's see how good I can do right now. Let me see if I can see behind me. I'm just curious because the ones
Steve,
behind me.
you want to grab some of these and hold them up behind her and see if she can see them? Help her out.
Yeah.
Well, this one right here is a closed square.
Yeah, that's a black square.
Okay, let me shake. This is a closed circle?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. Oh, is this like a open plus?
Open plus sign, yep.
Okay. And this one is, what is this? It's a closed something. Closed square?
Yep.
Okay. It confused me because I'm like, didn't I already see a square? Is this a closed triangle?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I thought
Wow.
Again, I was like, did I see that already? This is a, wait a minute. This is not a plus, is it?
Nope.
Oh, okay. This is an open something.
Yep.
Come on. Is it an open triangle?
It is.
Okay, that's why. Okay. Well, I'll do 2 more. Open circle.
Yep.
And this is a plus.
That's a plus. That's correct.
Yes. Okay.
And those were all behind your head.
Yeah. Let's do another
That's
mass
crazy.
just for fun.
So if I was able to hold something up in front of you, would you be able to read it?
Yeah. Probably. Let's try it.
I'm going to go grab some books from the other room. I'll be right back.
Okay. I'm going to try also to put these a bunch of patches and stuff on.
Okay.
We'll see what I can do. And if I suck,
Yeah.
I'll just take them off.
Yeah.
Can you get her to describe like why, like how she, like why she was putting, it's like she had a specific window that she could see.
Yeah.
from
So
behind her.
there's like, that was the clearest window was on this side right here.
Mm-hmm.
I also have one here and one up, like I have 2 up here too. And
Wow.
So yeah, so that one was the clear. I probably could have seen over here too, but I'm like, I don't want to like mess it up right now. But
So these are like medical eye patches or something, right?
yeah, so they kind of tape your eyes shut. Hopefully, you know, some days I see much better than others. So we'll see.
Is there a certain part of your like field of view around your head that you can see the best? Is it always right in front?
Yeah,
Because
the
it seemed
front
like
is the one.
it seemed like the eyeballs have nothing to do with it.
They shouldn't, but I do. I recommend when you're first starting out. See, right now I can't see anything. Like I've conditioned myself to not see. And I do that on purpose to make sure that it's totally covering my eyes.
Okay.
You could condition yourself to see through the patches too. Oh man, I hope I could do this. I hope I'm not gonna
You
make a
can't see
fool of
me
myself.
right now?
No, not right now. I hope I can when I put on the blindfold.
The blindfold helps, huh?
Yeah. Let's see what happens. Okay. Yeah, I can. It's halfway open, so I can still see.
You can still see.
Yeah, I can still see.
Okay. How many fingers am I holding up?
4.
How many fingers am I holding up now?
It's 1. See, the windows are kind of small, but yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a stack of books here
Okay.
that you have not seen. I'm gonna keep them under the desk.
Come on, open. Oh, they're starting to open. Yay. Okay.
All right.
Okay, hopefully I can see. Okay, let's
All
do
right.
it. So this says Area 51. It says, what is that? Uncensored. What did that say? Something top secret military base.
Yep, that's right. My God.
Okay, so this one is Windows open. It says Mother of God.
Yep.
Okay. It's starting to open more. I'm starting to see on both sides now. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, perfect. Yay.
This is a weird word, so this might be
okay.
this will test you.
This one says Sataneon.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
Holy shit.
It's insane.
And that says Chaos. Charles Manson.
You can read it through your fingers. She said it
If I
before
held
you.
this behind your head, would you be able to see it?
Right now, not so good. I can see the back windows. I can see colors and shapes best right now because I don't use them enough.
This one is going to be super easy for you.
Okay. It says cell. It says shadow. Wait. No. Yeah, shadow and cell.
Shadow cell. Mm-hmm. I don't know how the hell that just happened.
Wait.
Oh,
You got something?
Can I? I could just. What can I touch? Can she see this screen here?
Hold on, I got an idea. I bought this. So this is one I bought. I bought this one on Amazon. So throw this one on top of it. So we know you didn't bring this one with you. I bought this one on Amazon.
what are we talking about? You talking about another mask?
Yeah, this is
Oh, okay.
another mask. Yeah.
I just took it off, so I'm blind again.
There you go. Do
All right. Oh, super tight.
you want me to loosen it for you?
Yeah. Come on.
Here.
Yeah, because I don't want to like I said, you can pierce through, but I don't
Yep.
want to because I want to make sure it's
I wanna
totally
make
cover
sure.
me.
We gotta do everything we can to make sure that there's no funny business going on here, Dalia. Mm-hmm. So try this. Okay, right in front of you.
Okay, that's better.
It's upside down. Flip it. There you go.
Okay.
All right, so I got this screen up here, and I'll just
okay. He's gonna
type in some words.
He'll type something in. There's a screen to your right. He hasn't typed yet. Okay.
Hi, Dalia.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Big flower.
Well, all right.
This one was pretty tight too. This one was like squeezing my head.
Wow.
And yeah, totally blind. Like I can't see anything right now. Like that's when I first was learning. Once I started seeing, I remember like trying a blind or one of these things on one eye. I was so scared. I'm like, what if I can't see and I lose my ability? And then I put it on. I'm like, whoa, I can still see. And then I put one on the other eye, and again, I'm like, I took this one off, put it here. I'm like, whoa, I can still see. And then I was really scared to put both on.
Now, do you think I could be able to learn how to do that?
Oh, everybody can.
How do I do it?
Well, the main secret that I didn't realize until I went into the seminar, the main secret is light. So when you're first opening, like once you're open, so you remember how I said I was doing a dark walk, and I was walking in the dark all the time, and all I saw was like the outlines, which was cool. It was really awesome. But I was like, why can't I see colors and shapes and all that stuff? And so finally, once you put it, so you'll see when we're kind of teaching it, you see that we put a flashlight in you, and that's what activates it. Or going outside. You might need to be around people that can do it just to have the belief strong enough, but that's what activates it at first. And if you give me, with the scientists, they give me these weird masks that are like, they cover everything, cover your head, your sides, your back, and down here. It's like you're putting a box on your head. Yeah. And with those ones, like when I put it over my mask, I had to again use a flashlight again, like from the beginning, to be able to activate it and go through it. And so light somehow, and so you remember how I said with blind people, we do the sense of light. That's what we're doing with the blindfold. You're making them blind and then giving them light. Say, what's the difference? Is it light or is it darkness? So you're doing the same exact thing. When blind people open, they're having the same experience as the sighted when they're blindfolded. The only difference is they're seeing for the first time, so you kind of have to teach them how to navigate the world. That's the only difference. But when they're opening, it's very similar. Blind people are more accepting of behind them, though. And so, so with them, I could easily... I don't, because it's not practical, but I could easily get them reading behind them.
So so you could put the blindfold on, and I could hold an object behind you, and you'd be able to tell me like the general shape of it or what it is.
Yeah, like a shape or a color or something.
Let's try that real quick.
Okay.
Just do a regular blindfold. Steve, what do you do? You have something?
I got. What do I got?
Let's see. Try to have it be colorful so I can.
Colorful. I got an idea. Okay. Here, Steve, try this.
Let's see.
Here.
Which blindfold do I want? All right, give me a second to get this on right. Okay.
This will be more shocking for people because you got a blindfold on, and we're gonna put something random stuff behind you.
Okay.
She hasn't, and folks listening and watching, she hasn't seen what I got. I'm
and
totally
put it on her camera,
a
Steve, so they'll see you'll be behind her holding the object.
We'll see what I can do. Usually, it has to be like
Okay.
Do I have to hold it within the window?
Yeah, hold it in front of you, Steve.
Okay, can you move it around? Because moving helps. I'm seeing something, but is it like, can you move it again?
He's moving it.
I'm definitely seeing it, but I can't make it out right now. Is it like blue or green?
No.
It's not, huh?
My shirt is blue.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe he's in, yeah.
Can I hold it and, then I'm going to know the shape, but.
Yeah, then you know what it is.
Well, I still don't know what it is, but I see it, but I can't tell what it is. Yeah, I can't tell what it is. What is it? Well, I guess I'll just look.
It's just a pyramid. It's a white. It's a white pyramid.
It's white. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So sometimes in my back windows, if you give me like words or something, I can know exactly what it says, and if I look at it, it looks like Greek, and it's very weird. Or certain shapes too, like or no, I can see shapes pretty well, but it'll look not like specifically Greek, but I'll put it behind me and
Can you like if we hold something that's a specific color, will you be able to tell what color it is?
yeah, for the most part. Let's try that again.
Okay.
Okay.
Pick something that's a very unique or just a color, something that has
Oh yeah, I got
Let's
you.
see what
Contrast
different
color.
masks.
Behind her?
Let's see.
yeah.
Okay,
Let's see.
I definitely got
That's
something.
something that's one specific color.
And again, folks, she has not seen this.
The blindfold's already on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's there now. Move it around.
What the? Like I'm seeing. Can I hold it again?
Yeah, yeah.
Is it like red?
Let her hold it.
Okay.
See, now it's got.
That's a different color.
Yeah, see, that's not a good one.
Is
Steve.
this
That's his phone, but
It's
he
a
had.
phone case. But
Okay.
This is the side with the color.
okay? Huh? Why am I not seeing it right now? This side I'm seeing more. Yeah, I'm not seeing it right now. Do you have like a? I wish I had brought a bunch of colorful things, like bright color or something.
What that?
Try this.
Bright, colorful. There you go.
This is very bright.
All right.
Turn the other side. Do the other side. There you go.
Can you move it around?
It's a complex shape.
Oh my, that's so weird. I'm not getting it today. Can
Let
I
her
hold
hold
it
it.
again? Let me do this side. It's so weird. I'm seeing it, but I can't make out the color. It's like black and white right now. Watch, it'll come in like 2 minutes. Yeah, I'm not seeing the color right now. Let's see what it is.
Take your blindfold off.
Well, yeah, I see it now.
Oh, you can see it now?
Yeah, in the front because I brought it to the front.
It's a glue gun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I can. Yeah, if it's in the front, I could tell you everything. It's the ones back here that are. Yeah, I'm still not seeing that color. That's weird. Yeah, it's the back windows are just tricky sometimes. Like
Yeah.
I'll do it on stage. Here you go. I'll do it on stage, and like sometimes the colors look like each other, like green and blue look like each other,
Yeah.
and red and orange look like each other. And then when
Yeah.
I'm on stage, I'm like, oh man, they both look exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it's either red or orange, and I'll say something like that, and they're like, yeah.
Yeah. That's so bizarre. And so you've taught other people to do the same thing.
Yeah. They actually like because I'm the teacher and they're the students, I can get them to go much further than me. So like with some students without even activating their light sense yet. So they're not actually visually seeing it. I can get them to tell what things are in another room, like just by sense.
In another room.
So yeah, like just by sense, because you can sense it by energy, you can sense it by where it is in your body. And so I gradually get them to go in more distance until I'm in another room.
Wow. That's so crazy. Have you ever done any of these tests like similar to the remote viewing tests with your daughter? To where like for example, like here's a coordinate and here's a time. Have you ever tested anything like that with her?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No, but we have accidentally captured her doing pre-cognition, where she would know like letters and words and stuff before I actually would roll it. And so some of that's been caught. And but I also know like she'll know that I'm going to get invited to something before I do. Like she'll tell me.
Rolling a dice. Like say before I roll the dice, can you tell what I'm going to roll?
Yeah. Wow. I haven't trained or tested her enough on it, like at all, but she's done it randomly, and she said that she can.
Have you ever played the lottery?
No. Yeah, and her like with Lidu and the other spellers, they're like almost their ego is almost non-existent. So yeah, I don't know if she would either. So.
Right. Yeah. No. I could see how you wouldn't want to use that for certain things like making money, stuff like that. That could get weird. God, it's so strange. It's so crazy. There was another story in the Telepathy Tapes thing where, and this one really resonated me, where one of the kids, he wanted rocks or something, and she brought the kids rocks, and someone like prayed over the rocks or blessed the rocks. And like as soon as she brought the rocks home, the daughter like rushed in and says, rocks, rocks, rocks. And she wanted the rocks, and because the energy around the rocks. And she explained that energy is like palpable for them. Like energy, whether it be good or bad, it is real to them. And the girl was like, she put the rocks around the edge of her bed, and she was like getting like just like staring at them. So wild to me.
Yeah, like every day I'm learning more about what she can do and what we're all capable of doing. And it was her idea that we were supposed to start teaching telepathy. And I'm like, I don't even feel like she's already pointed out, like she always tells people, you're actually going to be big in telepathy. You're going to be before they even know it.
Well, the crazy thing is like the way scientists look at this stuff, the way scientists explain cognition is from a materialist perspective. As if you start from the material world, you start from atoms, electrons, and then you build up, and the very tip of the pyramid is consciousness, right? We don't know what consciousness is, but it seems like that's the other way around. It's backwards. It seems like consciousness comes first, and consciousness is like this ubiquitous thing. I mean, especially listening to the way you're describing this stuff. And having this shared perception or this shared thoughts, right? It seems like it's just like almost like consciousness is just all around us, and our minds are like antennas that can tap into it, right?
That's how I
or
kind
like
of see
sample it.
Yeah. What's interesting is I was always kind of sad because I thought my daughter like didn't have any friends, and a lot of mothers of kids with autism, they think something similar, and then comes to find out she's been having friends her whole life, and she just meets up with them at the Hill. And like there when I went.
What is the Hill for people that don't know?
It's this ethereal place that you're able to meet with others, and a bunch of teachers are there, other beings. Some of them are human but never were born. Some of them are angelic type creatures, and they all have kind of these jobs there. Like my daughter says, she's a volunteer, so she kind of helps when people are ascending. And you don't have to have autism to go there. Anybody can go. You just kind of have to ascend. I still haven't gone there myself, but I've met people that have. There was this one story where this one woman, she says to me, like, hey, can I talk to your daughter? Like, so I'm on Zoom with her. And so I bring Lidu down, and she says to my daughter, like, she's never met her before. And she says, hey, do you recognize me? And my daughter's like, yes. And she's spelling it out. And she goes, how do you recognize me? She goes, you were teaching at the Hill. And I'm like, really? And then the woman goes, and what was I teaching? And I was like, what the heck? And then I can't remember what my daughter said, but the woman said, that's right. I was trying to teach a song. And then she says, can you sing the song? And my daughter starts singing. And then she's like, that's right. That does sound like what the song sounds like. And then she goes, can you name the song? And my daughter just describes what the song was about. She didn't actually say the name. She just describes it. And she goes, yeah, that is what the song's about. And I was like, this is insane. This is the first time I've heard of someone that wasn't on the spectrum going there. And she goes, well, I don't know how much I'm not on the spectrum. So she said she was saying, I probably am on the spectrum, the woman. But yeah, like my daughter says anyone can go there. And I've met a couple of people that could speak that has actually been there. And she keeps telling me, my daughter, every day, like they're waiting for you. Like, come on. Like also these eavesdroppers, she calls them. So eavesdroppers are people or beings that they use telepathy. They're transporting themselves, and they're which anyway, she said that they influence, when we ask, but I don't know if you know who Sean McNamara is. He actually kind of teaches blindfold vision, and he teaches telekinesis. And
Sean McNamara?
Yeah. So I woke up one day, and he's like on my list of friends, but I've never really had a conversation with him. And I woke up one day and I had this strong sense of like, I'm supposed to reach out to him. And I didn't even understand why. And so I reach out and I said, hey, I'm wondering if you wanted to talk to my daughter. And this is before my daughter really got out there with her telepathy. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and I said, yeah, he's like, I've actually been listening to the telepathy tapes a lot. And I said, oh, my daughter actually has telepathy. And so we get on the call and he told me that for the past few days, he had just listened to the telepathy tapes. And he said for the past few days, he's been talking to the hill and saying, hey, my name is this. Here's my phone number. If you guys need any help, reach out. And so I asked my daughter, she was right next to me. And I said, hey, so do you know why I reached out to him? Why I felt that strong sensation to reach out? And she goes, yeah, we heard him and you were the quickest way to answer him. Like it was, and so they were the ones influencing me to go and do it. And so that's happened a lot where I'm highly influenced and I feel this strong sensation to do something. And she would say it's them at the hill using me because I'm the closest way. I'm the closest way to get the message across or something.
Wow.
So that's happened a lot too.
And she's also talked about that the previous lives thing is interesting, and like reincarnation, because that doesn't jive with the Bible, right?
It could. Like there's some hints in the Bible as well. Like there's this one story I was telling this blind man, and he was 40 years old. He's in his 40s, and he said, like he was a little sad that he only started doing this now and he could have done it his whole life. And I remember telling him, this reminds me of a Bible story where Jesus heals a blind man. And he went over to the blind man and his disciples said, who sinned that he was born blind? Was it him or was it his parents? And so Jim saying him, meaning he must have sinned before in another life. That was the implication by that verse. And so just to tell you, to going into that story, and so Jesus's response was nobody did. Because back then they believed if you had blindness or if you were ill, it was because of a sin.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to teach the concept of like, no, nobody sinned. He was born blind so that this moment can be made manifest so that the world can see what's possible. And so that's what I was telling him. I said, that's why you're getting this healing now, or healing. I did not say the word healing. That's why you're just discovering this ability now. So people can know that you can be born blind. You could be in your 40s. You can be just starting it right now and still do it. And you don't have to have a background in science or spirituality. You don't have to meditate all day. You don't have to be a vegan. Because that's what he said to me. He's like, I'm surprised, like you're not doing that all the time. And I was like, and so I said, so that's what I believe is the reason that you're doing it now. Like, so people can know. And just like in that Bible story. But anyway, so that was two things I was saying. So in that story, they did suggest that there was reincarnation. So, but I don't know, like I still struggle myself with the idea of, I don't know if it's reincarnation or my daughter is able to tap into other timelines. So that's what I'm not sure about. I have to ask her because I get a lot of information like that from like, and I can't tell the difference. They're so similar. So
yeah, I feel like I would just have so many questions.
Well, every time she answers me, I have more questions.
Right.
My younger girls, I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, they remember having, well, my 6-year-old doesn't remember, but she says she knows this is a new body. Like, so she says that. My 4-year-old actually remembers having a totally different body and a totally different life. And so I'm like, okay, so it sounds like, but again, you can always argue they're going into another timeline. Like, so I can't tell if it's reincarnation or other timelines that they're visiting.
Whoa. There was a gentleman I talked to on here who said that there was an actual study done on children that remembered previous lives. And he said that the one common denominator between all of these kids who had remembered previous lives was that they were males. And there was some sort of connection with trauma.
Yeah, I've heard that before too.
There was like, because I guess in the past, if you were to die a violent death, you were most likely a male, right? Because males were in combat and all these types of things. So I thought that was super interesting, like some sort of connection with trauma.
Yeah,
and you hear a lot of stories about people who have today like been through tremendous amounts of trauma, who are more open to these things. more open to these extrasensory.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, like when I have an emotion attached to a memory, then I remember it better.
Yes.
Like those childhood memories, it's because I felt negative. There was something that made me feel bad, and that's why I remember it so well. And I would think it's the same. In fact, I've heard that memory, the memory part of your brain that remembers things from before, people who can remember really well, they're the ones that have better access to past lives, especially under hypnosis. So that's what I've been hearing. My one daughter, though, she's not a 4-year-old. She's not at the age where she's lying or exaggerating yet. And she went into so many details about a previous life with me and her. And speaking of my other kids, like they're still too young for me to know what they have abilities wise. But there is one thing I thought was interesting is my 6-year-old seems to have the same ability as Lidu to talk to someone that's dreaming, because Lidu does that. Lidu,
Talk to somebody else who's dreaming.
or someone that's dreaming can talk to her while she's awake. And so I remember one day, this is when I discovered my 6-year-old can do it. I was sitting and I was on the computer. My 6-year-old was watching TV, and she just and my 4-year-old is asleep on the couch over there. And my 6-year-old gets up and she says, "Hey, Mom, she's dreaming that she just wet her pants." And I was like, "What?" And she goes, "Yeah, she's dreaming that she's wetting her pants." And I said, "Well, how do you know that?" She goes, "Because she just told me." And she's like, "She's sleep talking." And I started to have that face like, "What are you talking about?" And then she started to look nervous, and I was like, "Oh, no, I can't do that." I said, "That's awesome, sweetie. So tell me more." And she's like, I said that if you can hear her while she's dreaming, that's really cool. And she goes, yeah, it's sleep talking. And she goes, and she's like, "I tried sleep talking with you yesterday while she was asleep and I was awake. And she said, you were sitting there and I tried to tell you I loved you and you didn't hear me. And so I thought you didn't love me." And she got a little sad. And I was "Oh no, I really just didn't hear you, sweetie." And then my 4-year-old sits up and then I asked her what she was dreaming about. And she's like, and then she was saying how like she wet her pants. And I said, "You dreamt that you wet your pants?" And she's like, "Uh-huh." And then she like lays back down and goes back to sleep. And I was like, whoa, that is so crazy. And then I asked Lidu, she comes out and I said, "Lidu, have you heard of this thing called sleep talking?" She's like, "Of course," like Lidu just says like, "Of course." That's my 15-year-old. And she's like, "Of course." And basically that's what she does. And when she's helping us in dreams at night so Lidu does that all the time. I just didn't think it was the same thing. So that's what I was saying earlier. There's so many abilities that we don't even have a name for yet because we just don't think that way. And I learned so much more about these extra abilities through my daughter. So it's insane. So one of the reasons, okay, so I've always had the ability to kind of go out of body and stuff. Like I've always been able to do that. And especially in my early 20s, I used to do it a lot more. And like my late teen years. And what I would always do, sometimes it would be spontaneous. I didn't like that. But what I would always do is I would meditate until my body kind of goes numb. It takes about 20, 30 minutes. And then once I'm not really feeling my body anymore, I kind of expand and go out. And I've always thought you had to take like at least 30 minutes to be able to do it. Like for your body to fall asleep and your consciousness is still awake and then you come out. I always thought that's how it worked. But my daughter can do it instantly. And the one thing I notice is the similarity is she doesn't really feel her body very much. In fact, when I'm communicating with her, like she's always wanting me to touch her so she can come back down and it's easier for her to spell and she can feel her body senses. And she says, yeah, whenever she wants to be more in her body, that's what she does. She'll focus on her senses. And so I remember asking her one day, I said, "How is it like you're able to access these beings in real time?" Because you can ask her like, "Hey, what did my angel say about this?" And she can tell you in real time, like immediately she can start spelling, and it'll be stuff that only you know. It'll be stuff like that there's no possible way she could know. And she'll spell it out. And she could do it in real time. And I was like, "How do you do that, Lidu? How come, like, for me to have any experience like that, I have to meditate and I have to do all this stuff?" And she says the difference is basically, first of all, it's my limited belief that I have to meditate and relax and all this. But that's not her words, those are mine. But she says the thing that she does that's different is she goes into a state of ecstasy. And by going into a state of ecstasy, you'll forget everything again, still. And that's a quicker way. And so you'll notice when she's spelling, and she is talking to angels and stuff, she is being really happy and silly and laughing and moving around, and she's like super happy, and she becomes extra childlike. And so she says that's how she does it. And a lot of the kids kind of do it like that too.
Has she ever described to you like other kids that she's met on the hill, that she's talked to, that that you were like able to eventually like meet in real life?
Yes. Most of the people, it's hard to like perfectly validate it, but most of the people that I come across that have kids like this, it's because the kids kind of brought us together. Like, for example, my friend in New Jersey, I hadn't talked to her since high school. And I remember one day I was doing a demonstration video for Contact in a Desert. And I remember out of nowhere, she came to my mind strongly. And I sent her, I said, hey, I don't know why, but I feel like sending this video to you of Lidu demonstrating telepathy. I hadn't talked to her since high school. And turns out like she had just prayed, said she has an autistic son, couldn't speak. This is the same one that went to that camp. But anyway, it turns out she has an autistic son that couldn't speak, and I had no idea. And she's never heard of telepathy. She never heard of spelling to communicate, nothing. Like she was trying everything in the world. And so she had prayed, help me to be able to reach him and to be able to communicate with them. I sent that to her within a half hour. And I had no idea why I was sending it. I hadn't talked to her in years. We connect, and turns out, this is from Lidu's side, she's saying like he was telling her, because I was the closest to his mom, he was telling Lidu to influence me to reach out to the mom. And what's interesting is when we were on the call together, Lidu was basically, he couldn't speak yet, so I had Lidu kind of telepathically pick up what he was. His mom would ask questions and Lidu would answer the questions by reading his mind. Like he would tell her the answer.
Wow.
And what was interesting is with telepathy, it's so fast. Like they get the information really quickly and it takes so long for them to translate and to put it into spelling. And so,
right.
But I remember I'm sitting here talking to the mom and the two kids are just kind of going like that. And then out of nowhere, my daughter says, Mom, I want the picture of the dog, or and so I get the picture of the dog, and I knew, so my daughter had painted a picture of a golden retriever, and we went on. It's a long story short, but this is how she got her service dog. We were on the news and we were surprised with the service dog. It's just a long story, but all she says, it's just like within 2 minutes, she goes, Mom, I want the picture of the dog, and then I show it, and then I said, Lidu, did you guys? It was obvious that she had just told him the entire story within that 2 minutes, and then his mom was like, yeah, he loves golden retrievers. And he was the one that, Lidu said he was the one that wanted to see the picture. It was, all of that was in 2 minutes, but it took her like so long to describe why so yeah. And for them to take these incredible concepts and then put it down into like a phrase, it's a lot of work, especially since it's hard for them to spell. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, they get worried, when I say that, she has access to my mind and stuff. And I'm just used to it. I'm used to going, if there's a place with a bunch of spellers, I'm just going in there knowing they're all reading my mind. And I don't care, because I have the highest of respect for them and love for them. And my daughter does too. But they're like, well, what about adult thoughts and stuff? I'm like, well,
right. What about naughty thoughts? Like I get worried. Wouldn't you get worried about that?
Not at all, because she's seen it her whole life. But it's like,
that's the craziest thing.
Well, if you see your parents doing something gross and naughty, you're going to turn away. And that's what she says. She says, if I see something I don't want to see, I turn away. And I just expect that. And also, because my husband hated the idea of her being able to read his mind, and because he did it with her like for the first time. He's like, all right, just try it. So he gives her the letterboard one day. He goes, go ahead, can you? He's thinking of an apple. She spells out apple. He's like, anybody could have guessed that. Because he said like, tell me a fruit, and then so he thought of a tamarind next, and he gives it to her, and she immediately spells tamarind, and he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, Lidu, how do I turn this off? He's like, I don't want you to read my mind. How do you turn it off? And then she kept trying to tell him, well, we see everything. Like she's like, if you have a bad thought, like basically if you say something, if you're thinking something mean, we have the ability to think of why you thought the mean thought. And there's always a good reason why something negative is going on in your head.
Yeah.
And so she says, we see the whole picture. So there's no judgment or anything. And he's like, I don't care. I want to turn it off. That was his response, but he's just kind of used to it now. But that's how it is. Like I know she doesn't judge any of my thoughts. Like if it's anything like negative or naughty or something, she does not judge it at all. The only time she says anything is if she knows I'm about to do something that's going to mess up my path. And then she'll say, Mom, if you do this, you're going against the teachings. She's only done that like twice.
Yeah.
And to her, it was a big deal because her life mission is to get telepathy out there. And to let people know, like, hey, we're going to evolve as a species. And this is her life mission. So if I'm doing something that's going to take me off, she'll tell me. But it's only happened like twice.
Yeah, I've always that idea has always bounced around in my head, and I've talked about this before. Like, if human beings were like, let's just say like some technology comes out that enables human beings to communicate telepathically, right? Like some sort of Neuralink brain chip or some sort of helmet that you can put on. I always wondered, like, how effective would you be able to communicate with somebody? Like, because my mind is chaotic, right? Like, I have all kinds of ideas bouncing around up there all the time. And I don't have like an editorialized stream of consciousness, right? Like similar to like when you write something down, right? If you're wanting to communicate something by writing, you start out, typically the process of writing is you start out by just jotting down a bunch of crazy stuff that's in your mind about a specific topic. And then you'll go back, you'll revise, you'll redact things, and you'll whittle it down to something that is basically super effective at communicating that idea, right? And then anyone else can read that and get what you're trying to communicate. But if you're just going mind to mind, it's going to be, at least in my mind, it's going to be chaos, and it's going to be hard for you to decipher what I'm trying to communicate. Does that make sense to you? Like how do you, if me and you can read each other's minds and I'm trying to communicate something to you, I might have like a bunch of crazy stuff rattling around in my mind. Like, how are you going to be able to take what my intention is?
I remember one time someone explained it to me. They said, think about the amount of focus you have. Like, if I were to tell you a phone number and you need to remember the phone number I'm saying, even just to write it down, you're going to tune everything else out and focus on what I'm saying. And so they say with telepathy, if you're wanting to transfer a thought, that's kind of how it is. Like, it's almost the same as me telling you a phone number and you focusing so much that you can write the phone number down or remember it. It's interesting though, because my daughter is capable. See, telepathy is much more than that, because she's capable of seeing thoughts that I'm not currently thinking about. So It's like she has access to like the whole thing.
And is it stored in the brain? Like, what's the brain? Like, is the brain storing this stuff? Or
I think it's like what you said. I think maybe it's an antenna and the mind is out there. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's times like I remember this one time I was at a seminar and I was talking to this man and he asked me a question about, am I able to tune into like spirits and stuff? And I said, sometimes I'm not as good as my daughter is. And I'm really, really tired. So I wouldn't even trust right now me trying. And he said, well, let me tell you the situation. And so he tells me a situation. And I said, well, if I had to guess, I would say it's this, but I really don't know. And I said, maybe I'll ask my daughter when I get home. And so when I get home, I was not intending, I wasn't even thinking about that. Someone gave me a gift and I was telling her, I gave her the letterboard. I said, hey, can you tell me who gave you this gift? And you have a message for them. I was recording because I wanted them to see like, hey, she knows you without me telling her, And, but she started spelling something else. She said, you did a really good job telling blank, this person's name, his situation accurately. And I couldn't believe, this is the first time I learned she could do this. And I said, whoa. And then I turn off the camera and I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, yeah, you were correct when you said it was this. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking about that. And I could not believe she told me that. And I remember asking, how did you know that? And she goes, well, I teleported myself there when you were having that conversation. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so that blew my mind. And that's when I realized like there's just so much more to telepathy. Like, I think telepathy is limiting what it is that they can do, what they have access to. Another thing, this is also gonna, so I have a friend and he was really he also likes Sonic the Hedgehog. And
It's so crazy you're saying this because I just bought my kid a Sonic the Hedgehog backpack. He's been wearing it for the past like 2 weeks.
Yeah. How old's your kid?
He's 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's like all of a sudden like super obsessed with Sonic.
Yeah, I bet.
Weird serendipity.
Just the fact that we were just saying that Lidu's already like here because we're talking about her and stuff. But so yeah, like my friend, I was going to the airport with him to say goodbye, and he says, "Hey, look at this," and he shows me the socks he was wearing, and it was Sonic the Hedgehog socks. And I said, "Oh, I got to tell Lidu about that later." So when I got home, this is the same seminar, and I got home and I said, "Hey, Lidu, one of my friends." He showed me his socks before he got on the plane. Do you know what socks they were? And I said, can you tell me his name? And then also tell me the socks. This is back when it was kind of new to me still. And she spells out his name. And then she goes, yeah, he was wearing the blue Sonic socks. And then she goes, but he also had some red socks. Or she said something like that. He also had red, or I think she may have said Knuckles or something. Mm-hmm. And so I told him, because I'm like, I didn't see any red socks. And he goes, I did have red socks. He goes, they were in a suitcase I never showed you. And so I have no idea how she's accessing this information. But
can kids that don't have autism communicate with them like this too? Like young kids? Like
I think so, but it's my 6-year-old. She's always wondering, how come Lidu can do this and I can't? So she's constantly telling me, how come Lidu can see the angels? How come Lidu can do this? You know?
Because you hear so many stories about just kids in general seeing stuff, right? Like seeing ghosts or seeing things at night, and they're kids that have night terrors and things like this. Like, oh no, you're just you watched a movie, it was just a nightmare. But like maybe it is something that is more inherent in just younger children.
Yeah, like I had more abilities when I was a kid too.
Right.
Like where when I would close my eyes, I would see. It was almost like I was dreaming, but it was only when I would close. It was when I would close my eyes, and if it was scary, I didn't like it because I'm like, I can't even close my eyes without seeing it. And so I remember that happened a lot when I was a kid, and I hated it when it was scary, at least.
Yeah. So is there anything that your daughter is afraid of? Has she ever explained anything like any sort of scary beings or experiences or anything that frightened her?
Well, there's several times. Where I will wake up suddenly. I will wake up suddenly, immediately go to the room and wake her up. And then she'll say, thank you, mommy. And she'll say like how something scary was bothering her. And she kept calling me. She called me through the ether. And then I immediately would go up and wake her up. And so there's a few times she's done that where she would like kind of spiritually wake me up in some way. Mm-hmm. And yeah, she said she teaches me every night telepathy in my dreams. And I notice if I am falling asleep and I'm not totally asleep yet, she'll sometimes come to the door and open the door, and she'll notice I'm not totally asleep. She goes, oh, sorry, mommy. And then she'll close the door again. And she's doing some kind of training every night. It's just the craziest thing because she's only 15 now. She barely turned 15. And I see her as this huge teacher in our house. And we just had her 15th birthday in Mexico, her quinceañera.
Oh, wow.
And it was just last week. And we've never told her family about, my husband's side of the family. We never told them about her telepathy. And all of this stuff kind of added up. There was so many crazy things. So like her grandmother, my husband's mother, has passed on like 6 years ago. And while we were there, there's a tradition where there's a father and daughter waltz. And her aunt that was putting it on, she said, hey, can you tell me the song that Lidu wants for the waltz? And so Lidu tells me this French song, which I'm like, I don't know why Lidu picked this song or even how she knows the song, nothing. So I tell her, it's this song Lidu wants. And her aunt gets back to me. She's like, you have no idea what that song means to me. And she's like, I have been crying and crying all day. And so she told me that when her sister was in the hospital, so my mother-in-law was in the hospital, she didn't know, like nobody knew she was going to die. Like she just had a sudden aneurysm, and she was in the hospital bed and nobody knew. And she was in Ensenada with her daughter who was having a baby. And so she thought like, I got to be here for my daughter. I'll just see her later, my sister later. And then she ended up passing away, and she felt really, really guilty about it. And she said she heard that song and that time, and that song stuck with her. Wow. And then she said and this is before she knew about Lidu's telepathy. And she said the fact that I told her that song, she said that she knows that that was a sign from her sister. And Lidu knew this, but I didn't even know what was going on. And so Lidu had planned there's just so much stuff. Lidu was planning the whole quinceañera for a reason. Her family, a lot of them were fighting, the connection. They were some of them were arguing, not speaking to each other. And they ended up reconciling because of the quinceañera. And then some of them, and then also I show them the telepathy and they're just kind of blown away. They're like, what am I seeing here? The skeptics were like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I told them, like, she can also talk to my mother-in-law or and so they said, can you ask her that? And so she would the first thing my mother-in-law said through Lidu was, you guys got to stop fighting. And I didn't even know that they were fighting. She goes, you guys got to start taking care of each other. Stop fighting because you only have such a set amount of time together. And as soon as they said that, they all started crying and they all started hugging each other and stuff like that. It was a huge healing in the family. Wow. And so there was that. And then they asked other questions about stuff they didn't know, like, or, they wanted to know the answer to, like they asked their passed on father and their passed on mother. And she said stuff that they said, how did she even know about that? Like she said very specific stuff. And they're like, how could she know about that? And so a lot of them were like, I never believed in a life after death, but now like there's no denying it. And so they're like, so a lot of them were like, wow, I always knew she was special, but I didn't understand. She's just quiet, and they didn't understand. Like, they're just like, we're just so grateful and love, and we're just so happy. And they were just really, really happy. But the whole family, there was a big healing that needed to be done.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and she has this effect on people. And another thing that happens is when she reads your mind, you start to develop telepathy. Like that's what a lot of people start noticing. They're like, ever since I came across her or something, even now I'm starting to have the ability. So wow. It's a strange phenomenon that we're discovering. Well, they've been studying this for ages, but now because of things like the telepathy tapes, it's becoming more out there and accepted.
One of the other more fringe topics that people have been sort of studying on the outskirts of science is near-death experiences. And I've had a few people come talk to me about that. And in fact, we had a gentleman in here who was a doctor who did a study where he interviewed, I think, over 1,000 people who had near-death experiences, and a lot of them were very, very similar. And there's been books written about this kind of stuff, and that just, it opens up the door to that idea of what happens when we die. Like, that's one of the biggest questions of humanity, right? Are we alone in the universe, and what happens when we die? Where do we go when we die? And it just this whole topic makes me wonder. And when you have these people that are having these near-death experiences and coming back, talking about like leaving their bodies and seeing other people communicating with things and this kind of stuff, it seems like there's a connection with people like your daughter. If they can talk to people who have passed on, like what do they think happens to you when you die? Like, do they feel comfort in that? Do they believe in heaven and hell? What do you think, like from being around your daughter and other people like your daughter? Has anyone ever asked them what they think about that? Have they ever expressed what their beliefs are? Or
it's funny. You know how I said, like, I don't know if it's past lives or different timelines. My daughter, now that I'm remembering, she did say something. She did say certain people, this is their last life. And she told me I still had another one. I remember being disappointed. I'm like, what? Why? I thought I was doing pretty good. Why do I have to come back? And so she does suggest that you have multiple lives. And she does suggest that there is a time where you don't do it anymore. So there's that much at least. Going out of body and stuff, though, that's never been an issue for me because I've done it several times. And sometimes I would knock myself out, like doing too much energy work or something. And like there was this one example where I was doing a lying down meditation. I was doing some like energy stuff, and then I go to get up, and I don't even realize I'm out of body. Like I don't even realize it, and I'm walking to the door, and I remember my right leg felt like it was asleep. I'm like, why does my leg feel so weird? And then I go to the door and I go to open it, and my hand goes right through the doorknob, and I'm like, oh, and I look at my bed. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm out, and then I noticed I was laying on my leg weird, and I was like, "Oh, that's why my leg felt so weird and stuff." And so whenever I'm out, I usually try to. There's just so much you can do, but I don't. You're so. The only thing that limits you is your mind, but it's too. Sometimes it can be too scary to do too much. So I try to usually stay where I am, like stay in my room or my house or something, so I don't freak myself out. But I have gone far enough where I lose my sense of self. And I remember one time having that experience and thinking, okay, you know what? I'm ready to experience what death is like. And so I said, go ahead and show me. And I remember feeling, but I had no fear though. And I remember feeling like time stopping. I remember feeling like I wasn't breathing anymore. And then I remember going somewhere, and the one thing I remember is seeing like all of my family members like dying and stuff, but I didn't see, I probably did see like when and everything and how it happened. But I remember seeing it and thinking, oh, it's all going to be fine. Like we just do this next. And I just remember thinking, oh, this is all good. And it's all fine. It's all a big plan. We don't actually like end or anything. Nobody's suffering. And I remember coming back and losing the memory of how they all died and what age and all of that stuff. I remember losing all of that. The only thing I remembered is having seen it. And I remember thinking, okay, well, that's the one thing I'm supposed to remember. And I remember always feeling that sensation of, oh, it's all fine. It's not a big deal. And I remember feeling all of that and losing all of the fear of stuff like that happening.
Yeah, it's an interesting phenomenon. And there's also people who recount who have had near-death experiences that say psychedelic experiences are very similar, as well as telepathy. There's a gentleman, Dennis McKenna, who we had on the podcast a while ago, he was the brother of Terrence McKenna, and they did this crazy experiment in La Chorrera, in the Amazon and in Colombia, and where they were eating psychedelic mushrooms for like a week straight, and they were able to communicate mind to mind to each other via telepathy.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And there's a lot of people who have done things like those kinds of psychedelics or like DMT, and say that it's virtually identical to a near-death experience where you disconnect from the material world and your consciousness is just like shuttling through the cosmos, completely disconnected from your body.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a way to do it as well. Like it's almost like I would say it's kind of like a shortcut.
Yeah.
But when you do the dark room retreats, you're also tapping into your inner DMT.
Yes.
And so yeah, there's a big correlation between the out of body experiences and DMT. Again, we don't totally know like what's going on, but even like psychedelic mushrooms, it has it's actually psilocybin. I'm trying to think, is there no, I'm thinking ayahuasca has a DMT in it.
Yes, ayahuasca, yeah.
Yeah, but in Puerto Rican culture, they use that. And in fact, I think in a lot of South America does that. But in my culture, that's a common thing to do, is offer that for healing purposes and to be able to communicate with the outside and everything.
The gods.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's synonymous. South American cultures and these kinds of things are synonymous with each other, as well as like, building insanely unexplainable architecture, like the giant pyramids or structures made out of stones that are like 10, 20, 30 tons, that like there's things that we can't even explain today, like how this stuff was done, and these cultures were constantly experimenting with, picking up things off the floor of the forest and eating them and seeing what would happen. And, these people were also, they thought they were connected to gods, and, they had crazy ideas, sacrificing people to bring the rain, and, who knows what was going on back then. But, I don't think it's a stretch to say that they were probably more in tune with extrasensory perception or something else that we have lost today in our technological society that we've developed.
Yeah, a more materialistic society.
Yes, right.
But yeah, it's all accessible and trainable, and it's not that, it doesn't take that long. As long as you start to see what you're capable of, it doesn't take very long for people to pick it up. But I was just thinking right now how, like, I know Lidu's just watching right now, my daughter, and I keep wondering who influenced you like to invite me here, because my daughter knew I was going to come on this show.
She did?
Yeah. So I'm just wondering how that all played out, but she already knew, and so yeah, I'm interested in hearing what her perspective is when I get home.
Yeah. We had a woman on recently where we mentioned you, Ia Whiteley. Have you heard of her? She's a space psychologist.
Yeah. I actually saw that clip. Well, I saw it after I had talked to you guys. So I was like, oh really? Cool.
Yes. Yeah. She was explaining all this stuff to me, as well as I think we brought up the Psy games. And I had remembered when she brought up the website, I had remembered that I already saw a clip of you on that gentleman's podcast. I think his name is Sean.
Is it James, maybe?
We should find the name of his podcast so we can give him his credit. Where make sure we shout him out. It was called like Through the Looking Glass is the name of his show. Through the Looking Glass. Anyways, find his podcast. You'll be able to find it. It's like a blue color. His thumbnails are blue. I've spoken with him before, but I just saw the clip of you guys. You had the blindfold on and he was holding the books and you were reading the books. I thought that was just like, I have to talk to her. And then after that, Ia Whiteley came on and she was explaining that stuff. And I was like, okay, that's it. We got to invite her.
Yeah. I remember when I first opened, so we call it opening. It's kind of like with telepathy, like when the kids can spell, we call that opening too. When I first opened with the blindfolds and stuff, I remember I had an overload of all these different ways to see. And like, so I was able to zoom in and zoom out. I was able to see in the dark pretty like as if there was a light on. And I remember thinking this is too much. And by me thinking that, it got to the point where it was like consistent. And I remember thinking, I'll just go back to it. But I remember the dark though, that scared me, because I remember like walking around thinking this is the coolest thing I could see in the dark. And then I remember for a second, I thought, what if I see like a spirit's face in my face? And then I got scared and then it turned off. Immediately it went black again. And I was like, whoa, it really is like so much of it is mental, like what you're willing to see. Because we only see 5%, I think it's 5% of the visual, like the color.
The color spectrum, yeah.
Yeah, the color spectrum.
We can't see like near infrared or infrared.
Yeah, so that's 95% of what's around us is stuff that we can't normally see with our eyes. And it's just kind of creepy when you think about what's all around us.
It really is. Steve, did you find his podcast?
No, I'm still looking.
Come on, bro. You can't find it? I'll send it.
Through the Looking Glass is a very common.
You just go on YouTube and type in Dalia's name and then type in Through the Looking Glass and you'll be able to find his podcast. If you search her name on YouTube, you'll find it in like the top 4. This funny, Joe Rogan has a theory called his fart theory. And it's like, imagine if you didn't have the sense of smell, right? And somebody farted and you'd be sitting in this rank stench that you have no idea is there. But the only reason that we know that that's there is because we have this sense of smell. So what other types of things are out there that are like that we just haven't evolved the senses to be able to detect, because we've evolved the sense of smell to evade danger, animals, predators, fires, things like that.
I would even say there are senses we currently do have, but we're just not utilizing them.
There it is right there. Is that it? Oh, it's called Engaging the Phenomenon. I thought it was called Through the Looking Glass. My bad. Okay. My mistake. Click on that. Is this the one?
Yeah, so it's James.
No, this isn't the one I saw. This is not the one. I thought it's called Through the Looking Glass. Wait. Sorry, people. We're trying to. No, so keep scrolling. go up?
I think it might have been that one.
Yeah, it must be engaging. Yeah,
wait,
it's him. It's
there
him.
he is.
Yes, that is him.
Engaging the phenomenon. It's the same guy.
It's the same guy, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Okay. Engaging the phenomenon.
He's amazing. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's super smart. He's great. Well, hey, thank you for coming and doing this. This has been fascinating. You blew my mind. I've been interested in this stuff for so long. I've read books about it. But I mean, this is the first time I've ever actually witnessed anything like this.
Yeah, and what's amazing is like I was saying, we do have these abilities already. Like there's a lot of them we don't really even need to evolve. It's more about discovering what you can do right now. So I like to say it like these are just our senses that we currently have. If you just don't know you have the sense, you're not going to pay attention. But I can show people like, hey, look, like without even in a visual way, you can tell what these colors are in another room, or you can tell what shapes these are in another room, or what I'm holding, you can tell in these different ways that you don't even realize you can do. Like you can tell just by the sense in your body. And all you have to do is kind of tune them into it a little bit. It takes about an hour or so. But you can tell like if you hold a certain color, you always feel it right here in your shoulder, or you feel a different one in your forehead. And so even if I'm in another room, you know what I'm holding because you feel it there. That's one sense. Or you could just feel the sense in the air. You could just feel like a certain feeling from it's just insane. Distance doesn't matter. So yeah, I think there's an infinite amount of ways that we can tell things apart, and an infinite amount of senses that we have that we just don't realize we currently have. So
yeah, I think so now more than ever.
Yeah.
Where can people learn more about you and your daughter, or get in touch with you guys, or anything like that?
Yeah, so they can go to daliaburgoin.com or info@daliaburgoin.com to message me directly. For upcoming seminars, it is extra-ordinaries.com. And so yeah, there's a couple of different ways.
That's it.
It's not up yet. It'll be up this week, but
perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks again. This has been super fascinating. I love this. Has been a wild conversation. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right. Good night, everybody.